What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 48 of our Nintendo podcast, directly to you on our YouTube channel. Directly to you.
That's the one.
That's a shocker, right? I was like, whoa, man, what? When I learned that.
How controversial.
That's crazy, but it's equally as crazy as, hey, did you know that if you like the show, you could support it? You could become a member on youtube.com/not directly to you. Not that one. We're not cool enough on this channel yet. But youtube.com/fanatics4, you could become a member for $4.99 a month. And what do you get for that? You get exclusive emotes. You get loyalty badges that say, hey, look, I've been a fan of this channel and giving them money for however many months, you know. And you get gaming time with us. You get priority. I play Smash Bros. A lot, and sometimes it's just like, you know what, I'm just going to fight people. I'm just going to fight other people that like the thing that I do. And you get priority in that. And you'll also get, because, you know, I get Switch keys and stuff like that. Sometimes I get extra Switch keys. You get that, you know, you're the first one that comes to mind. And if I get a key that's like, I don't really care about this, you can ask Grimhane. I got Grease. What is that game called, Parker?
Yep, you got it. Grease.
I got that one. And they sent it to me. It was like, hey, if you want to play it, sure, why not? And I'm like, I'm not going to play this. So I gave it to Grimhane because he's a supporter. Isn't that cool?
Those sound like a lot of good reasons to be members.
Yeah, you should.
Just saying.
You should. I'm just saying, you know, I'm biased, but I think it's pretty neat. You know. You can also become a part of our listener support program thing through Anchor, which is essentially the same thing, except it's just a wider range in how much you can pledge each month, between 99 cents and $10. Nice. How you doing, Parker? Also, I'm AJ, and this is Parker.
That's us. Yeah, I'm doing great. We had a chili cook-off at work at lunch, and so I'm very full from that. Otherwise, everything is just a grand old time. I've been playing some games and all that stuff.
That's blasphemous on this channel. Playing video games or what?
Yeah. I'm super controversial, just like this channel. I finished Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu at some point this week. On Tuesday, I just played it like kind of throughout the day. I was working from home that day, so I just played it a whole bunch between other projects. And at some point, I had beat Blaine. I was like, I'm gonna go up to Giovanni and then get the rest of this thing knocked out, and proceeded to start catching a couple Pidgeys and then a couple more Pidgeys. And by the end, I had caught like 122 Pidgeys or something, just because I was trying to get quick candies just because I wanted to make my Snorlax be fast. And he's very fast now, which he should not be. Like, kind of blasphemous. Not something you'd be able to do in other games, but I mean, in other Pokemon games in the same way.
Because the AVs are broken.
Yeah, it's unreal. Like his, I mean, already. So this Snorlax's IVs were perfect in special attack, and speed, but still his speed was like way lower than everything else. Yeah. But by the time I like maxed out his speed stat for what I could give him for quick candies, and it was like 150 something at level like 52 or something like that, which is too high. But it just meant that he got to, you know, move at the same speed as other Pokemon at that rate.
Yeah, he's just like the same speed as your like Doug Trio or something.
Right.
Which, on a related note, why is Doug Trio that fast? That doesn't make any sense.
That is a great question. I mean, I like moles. Are moles fast underground? I don't know. I've never seen a mole. I don't even know in real life what a mole looks like.
I feel like this is a Grimhane question. Let us know if moles are fast in the comments, Grimhane.
I hope so. Grimhane, you'll make me so proud if you know that.
Grimhane just knows random stuff, you know? Like, we'll just be talking about something, and Grimhane's like, actually, the square root of 5,362 is whatever.
Grimhane is actually just Siri. Yeah. Like, that's all it is. Man alive. But yeah, so I was playing Pokemon, and that was a whole lot of fun. I beat it, and I'm probably going to go back around and do some comboing and stuff like that. I'm not going to bother to try to get shinies, but like I'll spend a little bit of time doing it here and there. And I also played the demo for Yoku's Island Express. That's a game that came out like, I don't know, 6-7 months ago or so, and I heard a bunch of people say it was good, but it seems like a weird concept of Metroidvania with like pinball mechanics. But I played the demo and it was really fun, so I may end up getting that at some point.
Yeah,
We'll see.
Have that game. They sent it to me. I didn't try it though. It was just something that fell through the cracks where it was like I have all this other stuff, and I intended to get to it, but now it's just like, I'm sorry. it's just.
I mean, Smash is there.
Yeah,
like,
Smash
you know,
is there.
what are you gonna do?
It's just like, I mean, that's the summary of it all. Smash is there, but something I didn't do in the whole rigmarole, however you say it, stupid word.
That's the one.
I'm also streaming on Twitch every Wednesday and also YouTube, but YouTube doesn't really matter to what I'm about to say. We are about to be Twitch affiliates, which means that people can subscribe there too with Twitch Prime, which is great. And
that is great.
Because of this, I think I'm probably going to stream just generally more often.
Nice.
So I can like knock out some of those other games. Also, when I'm just playing Smash and it's like this, I could be streaming this, but I'm just not. You know, like I could be a full-time streamer. I will not, because I like making scripted stuff better, but or more. But yeah, that's the thing. So
does Twitch, do you think, give more exposure or whatever to? Because I feel like streaming on YouTube, obviously you've got, you know, the Fanatics 4 following already, but just as far as like randos coming in, is there more of that on Twitch than there is on YouTube?
Just because, I mean, generally, not necessarily for me because I'm not in the weeds of Twitch yet, but for the people that like have joined like communities and stuff like that, and they're like always in the discovery tab for like a specific kind of game, or even better, a very specific game, it's a lot easier to find new creators there because there's not really that many discoverability in YouTube features outside of just what the algorithm decides. Oh, I'm going to put this on whoever's homepage and they're going to watch it. On Twitch, it's like, I like this game, so this is what I'm going to look for and I'm going to follow, and it's going to tell me when creators are streaming on to this this directory or whatever, and then people watch that. On YouTube, there's like a crude version of that where it's like you put in like in your in your metadata, I'm playing this, or this video is about this, and then people can search that game and it'll populate in that, but not in the same way. It's not really, it doesn't do as good of a job of showing people your thing.
Right.
And plus, like, Twitch is just better in terms of like monetization, like dollars to donuts sort of situation, because YouTube is just like, for most people, it's like pretty much just AdSense. Directly through them, and now they have memberships, but Twitch has always had that, and they have multiple tiers for their paid subscriptions, and they have super chats and cheers and all this stuff, you know. Like, there's no free subscriptions or free memberships on YouTube. You can get a free membership on Twitch.
And so many people have Amazon Prime, and just, I mean, I constantly forget that, because I don't go on Twitch very often at all.
Same.
But I've got Amazon Prime, so like I constantly forget to actually subscribe to something, and every once in a while I'll remember, I'll like hop over to Wolf Den Live and, you know, shoot them my Twitch Prime for the month, but then it expires at the end of the month, so I need to just do that more often.
I only go to Twitch for Wolf Den streams and Dan, that's our channel. And I forget, and it's like I'll forget like momentarily, like it'll be like a day or something like that, and then one stream I just see Aegon gifted me a sub. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Now Bob's like, oh, AJ didn't subscribe, and it's like, I just didn't subscribe because I didn't know that it didn't renew. So it was like, you know, but we're in the weeds. Games I'm playing Smash Brothers, obviously. Obviously. But I'm also playing Kingdom Hearts. Can you believe it?
I can believe it. I saw your stream on Wednesday when you played for like 30 minutes, and you're like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like my experience generally, because it's like I have a complicated relationship with Kingdom Hearts, because it's like, I think it's neat, it's cool, you know. I also think it's awful in a lot of ways. Like, it very much so feels like it was developed in the same era that the other games were. Like, it feels like a PlayStation 2 game. Doesn't look like one. It looks great. But I mean, and even that, there's caveats there. Like on PlayStation 4, it's like 900p or something like that, I think Digital Foundry said. And there's like frame dips and like frame pacing's bad and all other crap that nobody really cares about until they're told that it's a thing.
Yeah. Oh man, that's just as a side note, that bugs me so bad that like, I mean, yeah, there are games where I can like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 as a, you know, prime example, where like, yeah, there are some bits where it doesn't look awesome for a minute, but you don't really care if you're not paying attention to it.
Most people don't until they learn those terms, and then it has like this whole thing of like, oh, well, the version of this game that I have is not as good as that one that somebody else is playing somewhere else.
Yeah,
you know,
right, exactly.
It like gets in your head and all that crap, and it's like that's why a lot of people people would not know that like Doom on Switch drops to 480p while they're playing the game. They're just playing the game. They wouldn't think like, oh, this is the same resolution as like a GameCube game. Like they're not thinking that.
I mean, honestly, even like Wolfenstein, for example, I feel like, you know, because that was one that drops to, I don't know, 400p in a couple spots or whatever. And people were saying that, like, yeah, it's noticeable. And sometimes it's hard to see exactly what's going on in the enemies and all that. But I think I would default to thinking, like, if I didn't, you know, have any of that knowledge going into it, I would just default to thinking like, oh, this is a spot where it's hard to see the enemies. Like, you know, because there's just games where that's also, maybe not even intentionally, but that's just kind of a normal thing where it's like, some areas is just kind of dark. Even like professional movies, watching like The Dark Knight, there's bits where it's like, everything's dark and I'm not really sure what's going on right now. And I feel like the same is just true of games. But yeah, as soon as you know that it's like, are told that it's a performance thing, then it just becomes like too apparent almost. But I mean, if people want to care about it, they can care about it, but just, you know, don't ruin it for other people, I guess, is part of it too.
Right. How dare you tell people how to enjoy telling people not to enjoy things. But all that to say, like, there's a lot of weird stuff with Kingdom Hearts, and like there's like this weird like complex that a lot of fans have. It's like this weird gatekeeping sort of thing where they're like, oh, if you don't like play every game and you spend 90 hours in each one of them and learn to love every intricacy of this video game, then you'll never understand anything. And I'm like I've played the Kingdom Hearts games and I understand what there is as much as you could possibly understand something as convoluted as Kingdom Hearts. And I don't think it's like, I don't think it's rocket science. It's really not. The thing that makes Kingdom Hearts complicated is that it's poorly written. Not that it's like this super smart, like Rick and Morty sort of syndrome, you know? It's like, you gotta have a high IQ. It's not that. It's just, they are not good at saying, oh, we need conflict here. Let's make a new character to introduce it. They'll say, okay, let's make him some type of like clone. You know, that'd be great. Put an X in his name. That would be super cool. And a lot of our anime fans will like latch onto that and think it's this really deep, like metaphorical, like resonant thing. It's like it's fine. Donald Duck is in it and he yells a lot. And that's neat. So I'm playing that.
Nice. I've actually yet to play any of the. I never owned a PS2. Actually, the only PlayStation or Sony console I ever owned was
how honestly, is that even possible? I feel like they were throwing those out.
I mean, honestly, yeah. We, especially because like that was, you know, pretty much the DVD player of the time. Yeah. Our DVD player for a long time was my dad got a laptop that had a DVD player in it. Like it was gifted to him by somebody that we knew that had a lot of money or something, because laptops were like super expensive at the time. And so we just watched DVDs on the laptop for like probably a year and a half.
Did it have like a output, like a
no? We just watched them like
off the laptop screen.
Off the laptop. Yep, it was. That was what we did. There you go. And then so yeah, it was we. This is a backstory of sorts that doesn't even matter necessarily, but so I played, you know, a bunch of games and stuff as a kid, and then we actually lived overseas and then moved back to the US in when I was in right around when the GameCube and PS2 came out. And at that point my parents were like, we're going to be moving back overseas soon anyway, so just, you know, it's not worth getting a console at this point. So I didn't get a GameCube at launch or anywhere close to it. I didn't get a PS2. And then by the time we moved again, then I finally got a GameCube and specifically wanted SSX Tricky and ended up getting 1080 Avalanche, which is a completely different game. But yeah, that was my random.
That was a good one,
was a
I
good
guess.
Yeah, it was fun. There's only like 2. It doesn't matter. I'm getting so in the weeds right now. But there's only like 3. Like, because SSX is all about like doing cool tricks and stuff, whereas in 1080 there's only like 3 like trick runs in the actual game, and all the rest are like races where you do tricks and they're beneficial and stuff. But I remember being a little disappointed by that. It's like, oh, there's only these 3 ones. But
I thought this was Tony Hawk on snow.
All that to say, that's how I missed the PS2, and then since then, like, you know, I just have been sort of out of it until came back with the Switch. So there we are. There's a whole bunch of stuff.
How dare you not play PlayStation 2 on this Nintendo podcast? You don't have the necessary knowledge to be here.
I mean, honestly, though, I feel like there's probably at least a couple people that are hearing that and thinking that. But I apologize, guys. I promise that I care a lot about lots of things. But, you know. Whatever.
So yeah, I was playing Kingdom Hearts, but mostly Smash Brothers. And every time I run into a moment where it's like, this is some RPG PlayStation 2 era BS, I just turn it off and play Smash Brothers.
200 years later, you finished Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm like 10 hours in. I'm like, how did that even happen? I don't feel like I played 10 hours of this game. But to say. I guess I did.
It's time vortex.
But then again, I mean, like,
it's because of the weird story writing of Kingdom Hearts 3. It did some weird tricks and turns to you, and now you don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, it was just so well structured.
You can't even understand it.
It just didn't even feel like 10 hours. But like on Smash Brothers, it says my time is like some like it's like 300 hours or something like that. But in the game, the amount of time that I'm actually playing the game is like half that. So there's no real telling if I like got distracted and started talking to somebody on Twitter or like started editing something or writing and just left the game on. So who knows?
So that doesn't include, that's just like fighting time as
Smash
opposed
Brothers
to,
it just tells this is how long you've been engaged in this game. Like you've been actually playing. And it's like 170 hours in like the like how long I'm playing the game, which is still crazy. Still a lot of time, especially considering the fact that before that I barely even had time to play games other than something for like a video or whatever. But now it's just like, I'm like, you know what, this video I can just cram all of the research and all of this stuff into one 20-hour day and just call it a day, you know. Smash Bros time.
Smash is great. Other stuff that's great. You want to get into the news?
Sure,
we
why
got
not?
so much stuff to talk about.
Sick.
Yeah. So I'm sure everybody will know this week was the financial briefing for Q3 of the financial year 2018 for Nintendo.
Money.
And a lot of other companies as well. Money and stuff. And so a lot of this stuff that we're going to talk about is kind of things that came out of that. But before we go into like the money stuff, there were some more interesting, like kind of passing comments that happened that we want to dig a little bit deeper into.
Yeah.
You ready, AJ?
Yeah.
Cool. So the first one, honestly, that's a pretty big deal. It's also not like super unexpected, but it's still fun to hear the confirmation of it. That in one of the Q&As or something along those lines, at some point when they were talking, Nintendo said that they have at least one, so an unannounced title that will delight fans, or a game that fans will be delighted to know, in quotation marks. And also they mentioned a game that will go great with online. Possible these are the same game or they're different. And also, obviously, they have more than one unannounced game for this year. But I thought we could just spend a couple minutes speculating on like our top 3 guesses of what those games or that game could be.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and start us off. I'm going to go from like least, I don't know, most expected to least expected, I suppose.
Okay, I went in the opposite.
Cool. So most expected, I think it's very possible because of all the Metroid Prime 4 stuff that they're talking about Metroid Prime Trilogy. Like that's just I mean, because we almost know for sure that that's coming.
That's true.
Again, very rumor territory, but I think I'll also have some honorable mentions that I think it wouldn't be for a couple of reasons that I'll get into as well. But they know people really want Metroid Prime 4 for obvious reasons, and so then at that point, then it's like, well, something else that people will be delighted to know about, Metroid Prime Trilogy.
The thing that makes me doubtful that is what he's referring to is I think the translation made it more like it's connected to when they were talking about Switch Online. So like the games that I feel like he's talking about have some sort of like
online stuff,
online, like, and like a deep-seated like connection with online,
Gotcha. Okay, well that definitely changes two of mine. That one included, because they also mentioned the online thing, and so I didn't know for sure if those were connected or not. But yeah, I'll just leave it, and I'll mention my honorable mentions when they happen. But
online multiplayer, and it'll be Federation Force. But with the Prime story,
Yep, and actually they'll take all of it out. It'll be the areas, or like the same, world maps and stuff as all the stuff in the Prime trilogy, but it's going to be Blast Ball.
Yeah,
throughout the whole thing. It's just a giant map of Blast Ball.
So my first one is the least likely one that I think, and that's F-Zero.
Yep,
because I think that would be a cool online game. We already got Fast Racing Neo or whatever that game's called, and that's F-Zero without Captain Falcon. So just put Captain Falcon and Samurai Goro and Fox's dad, and there you go. You got F-Zero. You got online, and put custom stages, and let us create our machines, and it's F-Zero. There we go. Bada bing, bada boom.
So the only reason, so I've got some honorable mentions or whatever, and that's one that is sort of in my honorable mentions as far as I wonder, I feel like a lot of times Nintendo's out of touch with things that don't relate to specific sales, i.e. like they don't know maybe that would actually delight a lot of people, or that, that people would necessarily, they know like people want that, but that wouldn't be like, to them it's like, but like F-Zero, it's kind of a side thing. Which, I mean, hopefully that's not the case, but that's with some of my honorable mention-y kinds of things, that's sort of it, where like I feel like they think that people are only as excited as the franchise sales have shown. Right.
And I think for most of what I picked, I went for the stuff that is smaller in that way. Just because everything else is like, well, duh, either that or it's announced already, like you couldn't put like Animal Crossing, because we already know Animal Crossing, we already know Metroid Prime 4, we already know like Pokemon and stuff like that. So it's like looking for like, well, what else is there, and it's those smaller IP that haven't really seen any games in a while.
Yep. Yeah, so I think, my next one on a similar line, which actually I am changing it up. I put Pikmin 4, but if it's within online stuff, Pikmin's not going to have online. So one of my honorable mentions, but
you never know. Maybe there's some type of new Pikmin. Maybe it's a clear Pikmin and it's online. It's controlled by a friend. And
it's a clear Pikmin. All he does is sit on his phone and he just like chats at people. Yeah. And so it just calls for help. I don't know. But I think in that case, Star Fox Grand Prix would probably be my next guess, just because
that one is on the bottom of my list as like the just because like we've heard so much about it. I mean, it's very possible that got canceled after the whole Metroid Prime situation.
Yeah, right.
But it sounded like that game was too close to being done, and it didn't sound like it was in trouble in any way from what we heard. But then again, Metroid didn't sound like it was in trouble from what we heard, so who knows? Yeah,
That's very true. I guess the only thing with Star Fox Grand Prix, because it would still count in some regards just because it's not officially announced, it's just like super heavily rumored. But the production questions are definitely valid, where like, is it going to happen at all in the first place? I would suspect, like you said, that it still is, because it's like, it's been rumored for a while. It seems like they could be pretty much done with it. I do wonder if if Retro worked on Metroid Prime Trilogy, how much development that did or didn't use up, like with it, if it's HD, for example, if it's just like texture upreses or something like that, then that's, I would assume, pretty easy. But
yeah, I mean,
if they have to rework stuff, I don't know.
It's already on Wii U, I think.
I bet you're right. I don't even know.
Because it is on Wii U, and I think that those games are up-res to 1080.
I think it came out, if I remember right, I think it came out at the end of the Wii life cycle as a trilogy. Yeah. And so, but so you're saying like when you play it on
I'm
Wii
saying
U, it'll
because
just
they
up-res it anyway?
certain Wii games on the Wii U eShop. So like Mario Galaxy's on there, and like Pikmin probably, but the only ones that I remember explicitly is like Mario Galaxy and Metroid Prime, because I was going to buy those. Skyward Sword's on there too.
Interesting. Yeah. So yeah, I'm curious how much development that would have taken away from any of it, but hopefully, I mean, in some ways, hopefully a lot, and in other ways, hopefully not a lot. We're like, I hope that they're gonna finish with Star Fox Grand Prix, but I also hope that they put in a little bit more substantial effort into Metro Prime Trilogy and things, I guess, because maybe that also means that then they have that much more of a good footing for Metro Prime 4, so they kind of start, a little bit further in there. I mean, we'll get into that a little bit later when we talk about your video. But yeah, that's my second guess in any case, is Star Fox Grand Prix.
Okay, so my second guess was Mario Golf.
Hey!
Because that seems to be the next in line for like the Mario sports games, like the one that they always do is like Mario Tennis, and then the one that they do next after that is Mario Golf, like in terms of like frequency. So I just feel like, and I think that makes a lot of sense with online. People like golf, as shown by the success of Golf Story. So undercut the little guy, and Nintendo put out Mario Golf.
They've given him enough time to shine.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder, have they ever had online in Mario Golf before?
Yeah, it's in the 3DS version.
Oh, nice. Cool. Yeah, cool. No, that would be super good. I really enjoyed Golf Story personally. And especially if they go, I enjoyed Mario Tennis fine as well. It would be great if they did even more with it. And, did you play Mario Tennis all the way through? Or okay.
Product provided by Nintendo.
That's the one. I can't say enough how much it bugged me that the rackets just like, the stats changed, yes, but they just flat got better. Like, that's so, I mean, yeah, like cool and all the stats change, but that's really dumb to not have like, this one's good at this.
Reward situation.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that just makes having to choose something more interesting instead of just like, at that point, just have me level up instead.
Right.
But whatever. That's an aside, a little pedestal of sorts. But yeah, Mario Golf would be awesome.
Mario Golf.
And I mean, there's not another, as far as we know, they haven't announced any other Mario properties this year. So
except for Mario Maker, maybe that's it. Mario Maker. That's what
my number one pick. Yep, going right into my number one is Mario Maker 2. I feel like they don't, I don't know. I feel like they probably don't want to hang out on New Super Mario Bros. U too long. Like they have it, but it's kind of one of those, like they were just waiting to get it out and kind of like be done with it so that they could then finally get Mario Maker out. So that's why they put it right at the beginning of the year so they could just like, have ample time of giving it its own space, but then having Mario Maker 2 really stand on its own.
Yeah,
so that's my like number one guess.
The idea of like the Metroid Prime trilogy before Metroid Prime 4 situation.
Yep.
Like, hey, here's
because the other way around. Yeah, if they were going to port New Super Mario Bros. U, but they did it after Mario Maker, no one would care. Yeah, I mean, that's not true. Like people would buy it, but much different frequency. Yeah. So yeah, that's my number one guess. And then what you got?
I already said Star Fox Grand Prix.
Yeah.
That was also one of my picks. But let me think of another one. Let's go with let's say Advance Wars. Just because that's what people want. People want it for whatever reason.
They're getting a little bit of their fix. They're getting a taster with Wargroove today.
Yeah.
Yesterday, for if you're listening. But just an appetizer for the real main course coming.
Undercut the little guy, Nintendo. Go ahead and do it.
All day, every day.
Just all of the games, except for, I guess, Starfire's Grand Prix. Is that, like, F-Zero's like, Fast Neo, you had your time. It's our turn again.
Yep.
Golf Story, no more. You know, like,
they come up with a new platformer IP that's just like exactly Celeste, but you know, she's got like, I don't know, green hair instead.
Levelhead is trying to do, like, they're trying to, like, oh, Nintendo's not doing Mario Maker, so let's do it. You know, and
we don't have a release window for that besides 2019, do we?
No. That would be rough if Nintendo was like, you know what?
Yeah,
Mario Maker.
That's
3 months from now. You know,
there's a lot of games where I feel like that happen, like indie games where they're trying to get out ahead of it. I mean,
like Ukulele should have came out 4 or 5 months before Mario Odyssey did.
Yep, and then it didn't. And honestly, yeah, if it had come out on the Switch at the same time as it came out on the other platforms, I would have 100% picked it up. But then by the time Mario Odyssey came out, like, I just don't care about picking up Ukulele anymore.
Yeah, I kickstarted that game, so I had it already.
Yep.
I just didn't care. So, like, it was like, all right, well, I already have Mario Odyssey. I don't need you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, man. I'm super curious to find out what this is going to be. And obviously, this isn't one of those things where, like, we'll find out exactly which one he meant when he said it.
He's not going to say, hey, remember our financial briefing Q&A where we said that we're going to announce a game that'll surprise our fans, you guys? Guess what? This is the one. This is the one that's going to surprise you guys. Here's the trailer.
There it is. It's Mother 3.
With online functionality.
Yep. Yeah. So honorable mentions, I guess, are, and I feel like these ones just wouldn't, like, so Skyward Sword, I feel, well, again, this was before I was thinking about it having the online part with it and just it being just a game that would delight fans. Mm-hmm. I think that, you know, sure, yeah, fans would definitely be happy, but I don't think that's something that they would care about saying, like, this would specifically, like, make fans really excited. So that was one.
Like, everybody's clamoring to play Skyward Sword again. Maybe some people are. Maybe some people are like, either they loved it or they're like, I hated that game and I want to play it with controls that I don't hate, you know?
Yeah, I miss Skyward Sword, so I definitely would play it and give it a shot.
Sword. I don't have this whole, like, hate, like, this love to hate sort of, like, situation with Skyward Sword that a lot of people do, or with motion controls just in general. It's like, I feel like a lot of people want to hate things that have motion controls just based on the fact that they have motion controls, and they don't want to do it for whatever reason, you know? I'm a gamer, I don't want to move, you know?
No, exactly. Like, the only times where motion controls get on my nerves is when it's just, it makes a certain thing. So in Mario Galaxy, when you have a fire flower to throw fireballs, you just, you know, waggle controls and stuff. Which is great most of the time, except for in Mario Galaxy 2, there's specifically it's a boss fight where it's like in a sand pit and there's a monster thingy in the middle and you have to throw fireballs into its mouth, or like bounce back bombs to throw the bombs into its mouth or something along those lines. It took me too long to do that boss fight because the motion controls just, like, weren't quite accurate enough where I would do it and it just wouldn't do anything, and then I'd stop doing it and then it would suddenly throw a fireball. But literally, like, in the whole game, that was the only bit that bugged me about the motion controls. Everything else is absolutely fine.
And I feel like
Twilight
Mario
Princess,
Galaxy
same thing.
is one of those games that it's understandable to be like, okay, but, like, why though? Because I think motion controls really have two distinct, like, purposes and why they are good in certain situations. And that's one, in the case of Skyward Sword, where it's like implanting you in the world. You know, where it's like, I'm Link, I'm swinging my sword around, I'm slashing these dudes, they're blocking it like this, but if I slash it this way, then I tricked them, you know, I gotcha.
Yep.
Slashed them, you know? And then there's things like Splatoon where it's functionality. It's like you're given a third way to control your movement, where it's like you don't have you have but so many ways to control how you move around and see the world. You have the right analog stick for movement and the left analog the analog stick for movement and the right analog stick for looking around. But here you have the motion controls as a third part to this equation, where it's like, okay, I'm moving the analog stick. What I typically do is like broad sweeping motions are with the analog stick, like moving from left to right. Oh shoot, that dude's over there, I'm hurry up and turn that way. And then to pinpoint the aiming, I'm use the motion controls. It's kind of like keyboard and mouse, and like how easy it is to aim at something.
Right.
A lot of people, like the people that love to hate motion controls, they look at it more as like this thing that you have to do in, like, again, these broad sweeping movements of like, oh my god, this dude is 90 degrees to the left of where I'm looking right now, so I have to move my whole body to shoot this dude. It's like, no, that's not how it works.
Right.
And even a game like ARMS, right, where it's like, it's kind of both in terms of like functionality and implanting you in this world. And I think that's a really cool way to use that tech. And I don't understand why people hate it so much.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's one of those things where I think like just being forced to do anything, a lot of times people will just not like. And so that's one of the, I mean, if it panders to,
I guarantee people were like that with analog sticks. Like, do D-pad work perfect? Why are you giving me this? You know, like,
interesting. Yeah, I feel like, and that one a little less so, just because it like just gives more freedom to the thing. But I can definitely see. I mean, especially if they're playing like Mario Party 1 and their hand explodes off of their arms because of the analog stick, then that would definitely be a thing.
I just think a lot of people like getting mad at things, and giving people a way to do something that's different from the way that they learned how to do it. Like Smash Brothers GameCube controller being a part of the game for 2 decades. That whole situation, I think, is really similar. Where it's just like, it's less so about like the GameCube controller actually being the way to play the game, you know, like it's magically makes you better at the game somehow, and it's more of like, this is how I'm used to playing the game.
Yeah, right.
And I don't want to get used to a new way.
And it is funny to me. I mean, like I'm fine with that. Like if somebody way prefers the GameCube controller, and you know, it's what you've been used to, but it doesn't take very long to get used to pretty much anything, I feel like, as long as it's done well. You know, like, I mean, obviously if a game is just bad, then like you're not going to get used to bad controls. But yeah, for the most part, like if it's just a slightly different, or if it's a different, you know, setup, then after about 2 days of doing it, your brain will be mapped to doing it the other way, I feel like.
Yeah, because it's not like any other controller is just the single Joy-Con, you know? Like if that was the new way to play Smash Brothers, then I get the outrage. But the Pro controller compared to the GameCube controller, it's preference at that point. It's not which one is better. It's a preference situation.
If there was a stat on like people playing with the GameCube controller win, not, you know, 70% of the time or something like that, then maybe there's something to go off of there where it's like, no, it's actually set up better. But that's just,
I think it would be skewed. Because
the people that really
that enter tournaments use the GameCube controller, so it's like that's just averages at that point.
So the better players just already are using. It's kind of the just the bias of the situation.
Because it's like, since typically the best players are the ones that have been playing the longest, and competitive players that have been doing something for a long time tend to want to continue doing that thing that they've been doing for the long time in the same way. That's just a self-fulfilling prophecy, less so than it being like somebody that's been playing equally as long and just chose to move on to a different controller.
Yeah. Something else that's been going on for a long time, AJ, is rumors of a smaller Switch, like a handheld Switch or whatever.
Yep.
Which we've talked about so many times. I mean, you've talked about a lot of times. I've talked about it with you like once. But yeah, they came up again. And these ones, honestly, I think, thinking back on all the other rumors, I think this is the first time that we've had like a quote unquote insider rumor about it, as opposed to just conversation of speculation.
Just like, I would want this, so I think that it will happen, you know?
Yeah. There's been analysts, I guess, that have like that have been like, I think this is going to happen or whatever, but or just fans,
as we've established.
Yes, exactly.
Analysts are stupid.
Yeah, so this is the first time that we've actually gotten any kind of like quote unquote insider type thing, which so it's Nikkei, Japanese. My understanding of it, you might know more than me, but they seem like kind of the Japanese like Wall Street Journal or something like that. Equivalent.
Yeah. And they do, and in that way, like in the same way that Wall Street Journal gets a lot of crap right, that Nikkei is the same way. You know, like they have some stuff. They have insider information.
Yeah. So that's so it's interesting. So Nikkei, in any case, they put out, it's two rumors that kind of go sort of hand in hand. One, that there's going to be a smaller, more portable version of the Switch that comes out sometime in fiscal year 2019. So that's between April and March of 2020. And also that there's going to be the quote exactly is launching a new service aimed at game enthusiasts willing to pay more sometime in 2019, which could be a couple different things, but there's some already speculation on what that probably is. Any new thoughts on this now that there's an actual rumor or kind of that the source has changed or any of that?
I still think that it's dumb, just on a branding aspect, you know, where it's like the 3DS, 2DS, this whole situation, like that was less so something that was like their hand was forced on that. Where if they wanted to continue to sell these things to their target demographic, which is a lot of people that are under the age that are supposed to be able to consume things in 3D. You know, it would just make a lot of sense to come out with that in 2D. And because like 3DS's like value proposition to fans, like the how the market took 3DS wasn't the 3D. Like it was pinned up as the thing, like this is why you need this, and people just were like, yeah, okay, cool, but just give me like 3DS, I mean DS, but better. But in the Switch, like the value proposition internally ended up being what everybody else embraced. A lot of people, like the people in like our vacuum, you know, are saying like, oh, I just use it portably or whatever. Or sometimes it's the other way around. Like me and Bob, for instance, like because we stream so much, and also now because of Smash Brothers, most of the time that I'm playing my Switch is docked. But then there's another side of people who's like, oh, only use it as a handheld anyway, you know. But the stats, as far as Nintendo is concerned, the last time that they released these this data anyway, it's split down the middle. It's a hybrid.
50-50,
yeah. So it just wouldn't make sense to come out with this thing that is no longer what they've been selling to us for the past 2 years in the marketing way, not literally in terms of like, oh, it doesn't make any sense to come out with a smaller Switch because it's a new thing. It's it doesn't make sense to come out with a smaller Switch because it's different from the other thing in so many ways, where now you can't sell it the same way. It's not anywhere with anyone at that point. And
the couple of things that for some reason, I don't know why, but I think the phrasing being that it's a smaller and more portable Switch compared to saying that it's a handheld only Switch shifts it in my mind to where, like, because that was the thing that I was seeing where it's like, if I can't legitimately cannot envision them selling an actual like handheld only Switch where it can't be docked at all, like that legit, I can't see it happening.
Yeah,
I mean,
can't take the Joy-Con off and like it just doesn't make sense.
I'm not like, I don't know. I think the idea of a smaller Switch where you actually couldn't take the Joy-Con off, but you could still dock it. It doesn't come with a dock. Because right now, like if you look at the Switch and you put it in the dock, I think the top pops out just a little bit of it. So theoretically, if this is just, you know, like a smaller screen or something, and you put it in the dock, it just is flush with it instead. So it's not like a whole lot smaller, but maybe a little bit or something along those lines, or somehow it can still be docked. There's obviously still issues with the notion, but cost-wise, it would be, ideally still have motion controls, still have HD rumble, but the motion controls, instead of being in 2 separate Joy-Cons, having to make it twice, you can just put it, you know, one motion control sensor, gyro sensor, whatever, in the whole thing. And then also the HD rumble could be, you know, more just throughout the console instead of just in the Joy-Cons separately. And then still be able to pair Joy-Cons to it, like outside Joy-Cons, but it just doesn't come with any. So, you know, but yeah, it would make like selling game. I mean, Mario Party just wouldn't work on it unless you then also went out and bought a dock and that kind of stuff.
It would just be the same thing all over again, where people were like, oh, look at the Switch, like the price makes sense. And then you looked at the accessories and then everybody's like, oh, this is overpriced. It doesn't make any sense. That's what's going to happen with the Switch Mini, because it's like, here's the Switch Mini. It's $150, but it doesn't come with Joy-Cons, and it doesn't come with the dock, and it doesn't come with a charger, and it doesn't come with X, Y, and Z. You know, it's like it ends up being just as expensive, if not more expensive, which works for Nintendo, but it's going to have the consumer be annoyed with it. Kind of like how people were like, oh, I would really like a handheld only, like sell me the Switch without the dock. They're like, okay, here it is. It's what, $50 cheaper, and it doesn't come with the dock or the charger or whatever. And then by the time you buy the things that you need for this thing, if you don't already have a Switch, it's more expensive. Yep.
No, and that's totally. I think if you got it piecemeal this way, it would just be more expensive, and that's all there is to it. I think however, maybe it's possible. Like the dock is still really big, and other third parties have tried to make smaller docks. I wonder if this is the time where, no kidding. I wonder if this is the time when, if this happened finally, like Nintendo then also sells. So, because this way it's like a cheaper entry point, but then in the long run you could end up paying more money. But parents essentially, that's the target market at this point, is parents buying it for their kids, or maybe even spouses or significant others buying it for.
And that's the one part of me that does hope that they figure this out in a way that does make sense marketing wise, because that is the moment that they figure out how to make the Switch their 3DS in the way that, like, 3DS is just the thing that prints money for us now. Like, well, it doesn't, because people aren't buying it, but theoretically it was the thing that doesn't cost them that much to manufacture. It's super cheap. It's something that a 6-year-old can walk up to their parent and be like, hey, I want this, please. And they're like, all right, cool. It's $60. If you break it, it's $60. Yeah. So like that's kind of what they need with the Switch, because at this point, like, buying a Switch is, like, all intents and purposes not that different from buying like an iPad Mini in price. Yeah. And you're not just going to hand a 6-year-old iPad Mini, you know, and be like, here's your, well, a lot of parents would, but like
less and less true, AJ.
Right. A lot of parents would,
but no, but good
back
point.
In our day, you know, back in the day of the Game Boy, you know,
when iPad Minis didn't even exist.
Yeah.
I think, you know, and so one thing that I was just thinking of when you were saying that too is if they can make it, because one trouble spot right now too is if parents have 2 kids that each want their own Switch, then you end up getting 2 Switches, obviously, but also 2 docks and all that kind of stuff, where that ends up being $600 for 2 kids, and you have an extra dock, which if you have a second TV, cool, or if you want to travel, awesome. But otherwise, that's kind of just an extra dock. Right. Whereas if they can do something where, like, even it ends up breaking even, where you can get... so say you buy, you know, a Switch Mini and it's $200, and then it's $100 to get a small dock with, I guess, no charger. I don't know, but a small dock and maybe even Joy-Cons with it, or I don't know, something. But it's $100. So whatever that package is that, you know, makes everything work, is $100 in some way. Then at that point, for a parent to get that for their 2 kids would be $500, because they would only need 1 set of that, you know, extra thing. So it ends up being like maybe cheaper in the long run to get multiples, which is, I mean, exactly what Nintendo wants, is to have multiple in a family.
Right.
I don't know. I'm really curious what happens with this, and it's likely to happen in some way, shape, or form, but I hope they do it well.
Yep. still think it's dumb, but it's smart in the sense that, like, if you can sell people one Switch per person in their house, that's smart. But in terms of marketing, like, as somebody that thinks in brand, you know, like, that's on brand, you know, like, I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. For what Switch is and how they pitched it, and the whole thing of, like, the disaster that Wii U was in terms of, like, how do you explain this to somebody? And Switch was just, and is currently, so simple. It's like it's the thing that you play with anyone, anywhere, you know, like that whole thing. And this would make it less of that. It takes something that was in a lot of ways focused on, like, it both being for you and for everybody around you, and to just being a thing that's for you. And I don't know. I think that messes up the messaging.
So I mean, I guess we'll see later this year. But in some other news, other things that we're going to see later this year, which are going to be awesome, hopefully, is, well, some sad news and some good news. Mario Kart Tour got delayed from Q1 of calendar year 2019, so last quarter of fiscal year 2018. Before March. It's not going to come out before March, but it's supposed to come out before, or in summer of 2019, which, I mean, it's not like any of us were holding on to our seat, but
I don't know.
There's a phrase.
I don't know how in any world this is, like, sad news, you know?
Right.
Because it's like, who was chomping at the bit, one, to play this game, and two, anybody that was, who expected for it to come out that soon? We know nothing about this. Like, we just know the name and it's Metroid Prime 4. So, like, just the fact that they're like, hey, it's going to take 3 more months than we thought. Okay, you know, whatever.
So, I mean, so that's going to come out in the summer, but also Dr. Mario World is going to come out in the summer, which is all we know about it, but sounds like it'll be exactly what it sounds like.
Cool. Why not? Sure. I'll play.
I mean,
Dr.
that's like
Mario
a franchise that just makes a lot of sense too. I mean, that's pretty much the Candy Crush of Nintendo games as far as, you know, gameplay goes.
I feel like I'm more likely to play Dr. Mario World on my phone than I am to play Mario Kart Tour on my phone.
I mean, and curious definitely what Mario Kart Tour gameplay is going to be like, but if it's actually a racing game at all, I'm not going to play that.
Like, is it Ridge Racer, you know?
Right. Like, that's just such a time investment, especially, you know, like a lot of phone games get played while you're, you know, taking a break and using the bathroom or whatever, and investing a substantial amount of time to a whole race or something like that just doesn't necessarily bode well for that. Whereas, you know, playing a little puzzle game probably could. And it's being done by well, obviously Nintendo, and Line and NHN Entertainment, who also developed the Ruby Tower Defense game and Kingsman, the Golden Circle puzzle game. And I don't know if those were any good or not.
I have no clue. They exist. Let's look at the top charts on the iTunes chart. Let's see if there's any racing games in the top.
I can't even
grossing. I don't even know where that chart is now. I haven't been on the App Store in years.
I can't even think of. So I guess, is there a Ridge Racer mobile game?
Yes, there's a lot. There's like Asphalt or some crap that game, some game called Asphalt, and there's like 7 of them or something like that.
Interesting.
I don't know where they put the top charts in the App Store anymore, so I guess we're not going down that rabbit hole.
We'll never know. But I mean, it'll get a lot of success right at the beginning, at least, because it's Mario Kart, and I mean, same for Dr. Mario. You know, being Nintendo properties, I think that'll help them out, and especially they'd better be freemium games only for the purposes of sales. I think they already
said that. I think they specifically said that it would be free with microtransactions.
Gotcha.
Obviously, they didn't say microtransactions.
Right.
Nobody's going to say that.
Free with the ability to do extra stuff if you
It's free, but hey, man, if you want to give us some money, that's cool, too. There's a game that's number 13 on the top charts for free games that's called Tiny Cars Fast Game.
Wow. What a great name.
The strap line that they have, it says, "Don't crash."
Is it a like 2D kind of like side scrolly racing game?
It's like a top down situation.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, yeah, there you go. Because most of
it's not even a racing game. Turns out,
Oh.
not a racing game. It looks like Frogger.
Interesting.
Let's see. Flippy Race is this. This is like a wave race sort of deal. And that's number 18. Top speed jet ski water racing.
When are we going to see wave race again?
That's another game that they're bringing now. It's going to surprise our fans. Yeah, I don't see a racing game in the top for a drive-in park. Show off your parking skills. That's number 3. That's not.
Yep.
It's not.
I've seen some ads for that one.
It's not a racing game, but it is a driving game.
I do honestly when I play mobile games, which is not very often, but every once in a while when I'm just like sitting on the couch or something, I just straight up turn off my data and Wi-Fi so that I don't have to deal with ads, and then I can just play it for a while and it's totally fine. And then I'll like turn it back on and be blown up by, well, nothing. Nobody talks to me, but yep.
Stardew Valley number 17 for paid. That's cool.
I didn't even know that was on mobile. Interesting. I mean, that makes sense for sure.
It's paid though. It's $8.
Right.
Which is like the way to go for that game. I think that was a smart move.
Yep.
Because
Absolutely.
who really wants to deal with that? Who wants Farmville but Stardew Valley? No thanks.
Man, that's so interesting. Just the whole premise that like, you know, again, $10 for a Mario game on a phone is so expensive, but then $60 for a Mario game is just $60 for a Mario game. Like, no big deal. But just the kind of our expectations for mobile games compared to, you know, regular console games is just really funny.
Yeah, like they tried to be the good guys with Mario Run. They really tried it.
Yep.
And I respected it. But most people were like, $10? Nope, not doing it.
But yeah.
And I still see posts from people in like different social media groups and stuff like, I regret spending $10 on Mario Run, and I'm like still in that place of like, how though? I don't understand how you can.
Did you spend $10 on just like dinner last night?
Exactly. I was spent freaking $10 on crappy like pizza or something, and I'm not sitting there not even. I was about to say 7 months, but Mario Run came out like what 2 years ago? Like I'm not sitting here 2 years later being like, I really regret spending that $10. You know, it's like what? I don't understand this. Maybe you shouldn't spend any money if you regret spending $10 2 years later.
It is, just that whole thing is funny where like there's some things that I'll just spend more money on than others and not care about it. Then I'll be like really particular with what games I pick out and play. But I'm getting better about that anyway.
I'm kind of the complete opposite, and I've always been like that. Where it's like if my parents are like, "Hey, let's go to the store," and you could pick one thing, right? My siblings would be like, "I'm getting a snack." I'm like, "No, that lasts me like minutes. I'm getting a toy," you know.
And that's why I'm more picky with those kinds of things. It's like, no, I want this to like, you know, bang for your buck or whatever.
But no,
like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm more willing to spend less money on something that is going to last me a long, or not like $10, right? If I'm looking at $10 and I'm going to spend that on something, I want really good food, right? For $10 compared to a really good game, right? I'm not going to expect the world out of a $10 game. But I will expect a lot more out of $10 food. Not to say that $10 is even a lot to spend on food, you know?
Right.
$10 just isn't. It's just not that much.
Yep.
You shouldn't be splitting hairs over $10. Live your life, man.
Yeah, that's right. You know what else isn't that much? Not these Nintendo Q3 results. There are a lot. A little double negative thrown in there just for fun.
I thought you were gonna steer into that and be like, these sales, because they're not 20 million, you know, like
I thought about it, but
they only kind of broke records.
They
didn't like knock it out of the park. They're only on par with Wii, you know. Like,
yep. Well, I mean, let's get into that one first. It's they originally said 20 million, and they kept by 20 million up until right now. Go for it. What do you think? Because I have some thoughts too, but I want to hear yours.
I still think that they can hit the 20 million. I think that this is less of a like, oh, we're not going to do that, and more of like, all right, let's cut our losses just in case we don't. Like, it's better to under promise, over deliver, especially in terms of the stock market. As it turns out, because people heard 20 million and then they hear, oh no, we're not going to do that 20 million thing, and then their stock drops 7% or something.
So
like,
dumb.
Yeah, it's like like they're like, oh no, we're gonna lower our hardware expectations, which is like, in the games business, okay, whatever, but our software is going to stay the same. We're going to sell 2.5 million less of our hardware and still sell the same amount of software, and people are like, I'm out. You know, like, what? Yeah,
no, it's so funny. I mean, like, how different. I mean, even though the Switch is selling, you know, around the same pace as the Wii was or whatever, I'd be curious to see what software sales were like by the same point in the Wii's life cycle, excluding pack-in games, just because there were a lot of those, I feel like. Just because there's, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Just the amount of games that Switch owners are buying in the first place is just way more, I feel like, than a lot of other consoles have been in the past. So I don't know, curious about that. And yeah, people freaking out about this changing is just also a little bit frustrating, or not frustrating, but just something. One
it's
thought
just
that
like, because I do have an article that kind of like puts the hardware sales into perspective a little bit. They didn't really go into like overall software, except for comparing it to last year with the Switch. So last year, in the April to December period, they sold 12.13 million software units.
Compared to 14.49?
Yeah, 14.49. And October to December, they grew by 30%. So it's like 9.41 million this year and 7.24 last year. And then they compared like the different franchises and stuff like that, and Mario Kart, which I think is kind of weird that they don't combine Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Mario Kart 8. Like, that's kind of weird to me, because they're the same game, you know?
Yeah, right.
Like, they don't say like, oh, this is the... Even with Skyrim, right? Like, they're not going to say Skyrim on Switch sold X, but Skyrim on every other platform... No, they're going to group that together and be like, Skyrim sold 22 million units or whatever.
Do you think it's because of the deluxe thing, or it's just they are just trying to show this is how well the Switch is doing in and of itself, like, don't even worry about the old stuff?
I don't even know if it's a thing of like Nintendo, you know, like I think maybe it is, in the sense that they're not reporting it in that way. But most people just do that on their own, you know. Most people are like, okay, well, this is a port of this. So we're going to put it in here, right?
I mean, kind of like last week we were talking about how Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the like number 2 highest racing game, you know, seller ever now, and that obviously included the Wii U sales as well. Yeah. So then at that point, like, obviously, yeah, because by those metrics, like, most people, when they're counting sales of game GTA, we're not counting just the PS4 GTA, like you said with Skyrim, like that same kind of thing. Right. But you're including all of them in there instead. Yeah. Yeah. And then, I feel like
in terms of like Smash Brothers is another like key point that they fixated on here. The best-selling Smash Brothers still, which, I mean, quote unquote, still, Smash Brothers came out last month,
right?
But
I think by this point already in February is not the case anymore.
But Brawl sold 13.29 million units. That's the best-selling Smash Brothers game. Also, best-selling fighting game of all time. Ultimate 12.08. So yeah, I mean, February, you know, by our next report or whatever, it's going to be past Brawl, like, you know, and probably like significantly. So there's that.
Yep. I think one of the things too, because they mentioned that like even Nintendo was something like surprised by how well, you know, how good their sales were in Q3. You know, so in the holiday season of this last year, but before going into the holiday season, they didn't change their forecast down from 20 million to 17 million at that point. They did it now, even though they were surprised about it. So like, slightly conspiracy theory. I wonder if they were like, we don't want to change it until after, like, not skew any of this stuff. Cause, you know, spelling doom and gloom in October would have been, you know, them saying, because you know everybody would have run with it if they were like, yeah, it's going to be down to 17 million, and then possibly fewer Switches would have sold over the. I mean, it wouldn't have affected that much, but like it could have still done something, or at least they would have been afraid that that would have happened. So I don't know. I wonder about that.
Right now, I'm trying to find the PlayStation software sales during 22 months after launch. 22 months.
Well, I'll give some other facts and figures while you do that too. Overall, through the December 31st, 2018, Switch sold 32.27 million units in total, which was 14.49 million units for the fiscal year so far, and 9.4 of those were in this past quarter. And software overall is at 1.61 million, which is crazy.
Yes.
We also got some million seller plus games, and it's interesting. Oh, that's right. Okay, so I figured this out. The games that they put on this list aren't just the ones that have surpassed a million total, but it's the ones that within the fiscal year have sold a million, and it's their total numbers. So something like Mario plus Rabbids didn't show up, even though it sold, I think, over 2 million, but...
Right, so they're saying like a million more.
Right, exactly. Within March to December of 2018. Yeah. So, because at first I was confused by that, but then now that makes sense. But there's some, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is at 15 million, which is like almost half the install base, which is insane. Super Mario Odyssey at 13.76, Super Smash Brothers at 12, Zelda at 11.68, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee right at 10 million. Yeah, AJ, sorry that didn't sell very well. You know, I know you're worried because you were like, wow, nobody's gonna play Pokemon Let's Go Eevee.
How will it ever do well? It will never ever be able to amount to a Pokemon game.
Were you surprised by Super Mario Party selling as much as it did? So that was 5.3 million. I was medium surprised. I think I was expecting it to be probably more like 3.5 ish, because it stayed top of the charts, or pretty high up in the charts in like all of December for the media creates in Japan. But for some reason, I don't know, expected it to not quite be at 5.3 million sales. So good job to Mario Party.
When PlayStation was at a comparable point, as far as this data is showing me, in terms of sales, and we already know Switch is outpacing it in that regard with hardware, they didn't report their software sales. Oh,
interesting.
So the last point before the 30 million mark in software that they reported their software sales was at 18.5 million for hardware, and they had 81.8 million in terms of software. But there's a 3 period, it's like a 6 month gap between them reporting, or even longer. It's like 9 months. It's like a 9 month gap between the last time they reported their software sales, and the next time they did was at 40 million, and they were at 270 million in software.
Interesting. And we're at what, 163 million on the Switch?
Right. And they had 40 million at that point when they reported for hardware. They had 40 million when they reported 270 million software sales.
Gosh, interesting.
Which is crazy because it's 6 games per console. That's a crazy.
That's really good. And so, I mean, it sounds like at this point the PS4s would be outpacing the Switch as far as software sales go. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess some of that, I don't know. Yeah, curious about why that would be or whatever. But in general, that's pretty insane.
But I don't even know if it's outpacing it in terms of software, because again, they didn't report it there, and I don't remember what the last reported number was for software. I think it was like 100 million when they were at 17. It was like a little bit over Wii U. So I think that they were outpacing them in terms of the last time they reported it, between when they hit the 200 million mark and the 80 million mark.
Right.
So unless I don't know.
I think no matter what, too, something that the PS4 and Xbox One honestly are just always going to have going for it, at least for the foreseeable future, is that still the Switch doesn't get, or at least hasn't gotten, the third-party support in the same way.
Right.
And so obviously there's, you know, these first-party titles that are bolstering the software sales, and specifically that's, I mean, a lot of what Nintendo cares about too, because that's what makes them the most money. But
also, I mean, the other thing that is important to take note of is the fact that the PlayStation and Xbox will always have another holiday season over Switch.
That's true. Yeah. Because they came out in a holiday season.
Right.
Yeah. Man, that's crazy. Yeah. So, I mean, all that stuff, I'm sure everybody's heard some of this already throughout this week, but it just was really exciting, or fun to hear in any case, and just to hear that Switch is doing well in all those respects. And it's even something that game developers are really interested in, which is not much of a surprise. But at GDC, the Game Developers Conference, they always do a poll and find out what platforms game developers are interested in developing for. And of the consoles, the Switch was the top one, which is really exciting. It's there's a couple caveats and question marks too. Like, obviously this is, you know, which one they're most excited for. This is also not including PC. PC is number one, so it's 60% at PC. 48% were interested in Nintendo Switch. 39% in PS4, PS4 Pro. But also we don't know about PS5 and Xbox 2 or whatever, but so I'd be curious with, you know, if any of that stuff was on there, what that would look like as well.
Also, I feel like something that skews this is that it's like it favors the consensus of indie developers.
Very true. Yep.
As opposed they have more votes, you know, where it's like an indie developer can count as literally one dude compared to a conglomerate like EA being like, whatever. Nah, we don't want to.
Right, exactly, and that makes quite a big difference. So I think you're right. There's definitely some of that stuff that skews some of these results a little bit.
So they should do less of a thing of like how many games do you plan to do, rather than would you want to do that? You know, because that could be a huge difference. Like if EA was like, yeah, we're all in on Switch, we're planning to release 15 games this year, you know, that's hugely different than if 12 indie devs were like, yeah, we're planning on making it like one game every other year, if that.
Right. Yeah. So we'll see how that pans out, but I mean, that's just going to be pretty much what it is when the time comes. Next thing, we've got two more, and then I'm curious to get into your video stuff. These will just be kind of fast ones too. Nintendo, in their Q&A, somebody asked them if, because of, like, you know, Yoshi was just tweeted out the release date and all that stuff, somebody asked pretty much like, are you guys changing the way you release information? And Nintendo said no. Which, long story short, means we're still expecting that directs are going to exist.
Panicking. They're like, we didn't get a January direct. All of my favorite YouTubers said that it was coming. Where's that?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, still honestly a little bit surprising, except for still my tinfoil hat theory of that Metroid Prime 4 messed it all up.
Yeah.
So it was supposed to be in January, but now it's not, and blah, 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 blah. But who's to say? Maybe this was the plan all along, and we won't get a direct until 2023, which is a long time.
That's not a change in how they do information at all.
No. But yeah, so that's just a little PSA. We'll still be seeing direct at some point, but just, you know, be patient and wait around for it, and it'll happen when it happens. And then last but not least, this really got me and was funny this week.
PSA.
Yeah,
everybody, let's just stop calling directs the X direct. Don't be like the January. Don't do it, because at the end of the day, it does no favors to anyone.
Yep. I think the only one that, I mean, the E3 Direct is
the
pretty
E3
much the
Direct
only
is
one that's like
that you can like dub that. And even then, maybe don't. Because they could, at any day, they can just decide, we're not doing E3. Or they can be like, we're not doing a Direct. This year, we're going to do the presentation because we're going to announce the Switch Mini.
Right. And we want Reggie to stand up there with his
they gotta
very
take
tall
it
body.
out of their pocket.
Yep.
You can't do that in a Direct.
Man. Yeah. Honestly, it is funny, though, because I saw comments from... because for guys, obviously, having pockets is a thing. Yeah. And, like... my wife's pants just don't have pockets. Like, none of them have pockets. She never has pockets.
Sometimes
because it's
they
just
have
like
decorative pockets.
Yes,
they're
right,
like,
exactly.
This
where it's
pocket
like
is an illusion.
Here's somewhere where you can put your fingernails in. Yeah. That's like literally it. And so it was funny seeing other like women or whatever on Twitter that were like, honestly, like I'm fine with the Switch. It's just portable enough for me because I'm used to carrying things around. And all these guys are like, no, it's not. Which that said, it actually like does fit in most of my pockets, but just I mean, not that I'd bring it somewhere like that.
And this even goes for 3DS. I'm not putting a 3DS in my pocket. Are you
not to leave the house? No. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I put the Switch in my pocket to go if I have to carry. Like I have dishes that are in my bedroom that I have to bring back out to the kitchen, and I also want to bring my Switch. I'll stick it in there for a second, walk out to the kitchen, pull it back out. But yeah, I'm not leaving the house with it in my pocket.
Yeah,
just
I feel like most sensible humans, if they want to bring technology with them, they bring some type of bag. You know, like for women, it's a purse, maybe a satchel of some sort, maybe a backpack. You know, and that's my choice. You know, I bring a backpack wherever I go, have my things in it, my laptop, and all that. Might have to edit. You know,
that's right.
You never
just
know.
Edit on the fly.
Edit.
You'll just see something that you need to edit just right there, and like, man alive, gotta just do it.
Yeah, you never know when you need Final Cut. You know what I mean?
All right, last news thing. Knock this out. I thought this was funny when it happened. So Darksiders got Darksiders Warmastered is coming out to Switch, which is cool. When it was first announced, though, it was accidentally leaked. Like the trailer came out, and then the page that had gone to the trailer just had a gif of, I don't know what movie it was from or what something is from, but it was like a blowing up building in the background and then someone in the front just going like, don't worry, nothing to see here. Which made me, I loved that so much, like that they're just messing around with it and having fun.
See, that would be the best thing to do. Like, that's just what PR needs to do for the rest of their lives.
Yeah,
is like
just do it on purpose.
To not even that, like everything that they link to, do it with like some sort of link that you could change where it directs to, rather than just like a YouTube link.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Like link us to like Google Drive files, and then just change the version if you mess up. You know.
Yep, exactly. But yeah, Darksiders.
Also, it's funny that it's April 2nd.
Oh man, because I thought it was April 1st at first when I saw it, and then no, it's not. It's April 2nd, and April 1st would have been real funny. Yeah. Did you play any of these games?
No.
Cool.
I have it on Wii U. I got it in the Darksiders 2 question mark. I had that on Wii U, but I got it through like a humble bundle or something.
Nice.
Never touched it.
Yep. It sounds like, I mean, the generally consensus, the general consensus sounds like it's kind of like the puzzles of Zelda meets the kind of hack and slash of original God of War games and kind of some other stuff or like Devil May Cry kind of combat sort of. So that's cool. Like that'd be pretty fun. So I might pick that up, and it's only going to be $30 as opposed to, you know, more expensive than $30. So, which is great for a port, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's it. That's all the news we got for this week. AJ, it is that time to talk about the thing that you did this week, which is real fun.
Oh, snaps. It's time to talk about the Metroid, the girl one.
The girl Metroid, of course. Yeah. As opposed to the boy Link.
Yeah.
Who you did reference in your video. So, yeah, I don't know. Jumping into it, I thought it was great. I mean, some of the things that you talked about.
I'm just for one of these weeks for you to be like, that video you did sucked.
I mean, it's bound to happen.
Yeah,
you're going to do one. Yeah, that's why I joined the channel, is just to bolster your confidence and then shoot it all down right at the end. Yeah, we get to play. Ooh, what did I just messed up the file? We get to play Blast Ball coming out. Metro Prime 4 Blast Ball.
I thought you typed Blastoise.
Metro Prime 4 Blastoise.
The worst one. He's not the worst one. Venusaur's the worst one.
Definitely true, but Blastoise is the best one.
No, this isn't.
So get out of here with your Charizard garbage.
No. Blastoise is a stupid turtle with metal pipes on his back. It's stupid.
I love Blastoise. It's he and just the whole Squirtle family. They've tugged at my heartstrings since. Well, I guess Pokemon Blue was just my first one. So since then, and also I just like water Pokemon and their typing, and it's good. Especially Gen 1. Just water was. I don't know if it was just OP in general, but it kind of was.
There were just many water Pokemon, but I mean that's true life. You know what I mean? There's too many things in the water, and we don't even know what they are. You know what I mean?
Man, which is kind of scary to think about. Yeah, like the number of things down there. Like Pacific Rim, you never know. You could have some kaiju down there in the water right now.
Yo, there's probably a Blastoise.
12 Blastoise.
That's probably where he came from. 12
Easily 12 Blastoise.
12, just 12. I don't know if that's impressive or dire.
I don't know.
Is it going extinct? Is that endangered species territory, or were there just always 12?
It's kind of like the 12 sages or something. I mean, not that there were 12 sages.
So they're just like they're the chosen ones. They're
like the omnipresent 12
creatures.
Blastoise.
Yeah, okay, I gotcha.
Been around since day one. Oh man.
So the takeaway is he's trash even in real life. But yeah, my video.
Your video. So I think the first kind of points that you made were essentially something along the lines of like, it's great to try different stuff, but you got to go back to your roots every once in a while. So you like Triforce Heroes or Star Fox Zero or that kind of stuff, and that Metroid Prime just hadn't done that when Federation Force came out, which is why then all the stuff with the Blast Ball and I feel like all the Mario franchises and games is why Mario gets to get away with that so much. Like if they made Mario platformers and then they took a break from that for a while and then we're like, and now Mario Tennis, and people were like, no, I sure don't want that. Go ahead and just give us I'll try it out, but then give us a platformer again, and then the next thing it come out with is like Mario Kart, and people will just be real mad. But the fact that we get a Mario platformer just as often as we means you can just like
Madden games, then it's fine. It's like, all right, you want to give me Dr. Mario? Cool.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the thing with a lot of these franchises, Metroid being a prime example, it just hasn't done that and like hasn't really honored its fans in that kind of way where, but it was also the reason that Samus Returns and like, when they announced Metro Prime 4, Samus, and then also Samus Returns, like people were real happy about Samus Returns because they're like, we don't even care. We're getting a Metro Prime 4.
Yeah, exactly. So, and they kind of did that just in general that year with Pokemon. They were like, hey, look, we're trying something new with Pokemon, but don't worry, man. We're also going to give you the thing that you want,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that was a great thing for them to have done with that. And then you went into the Zelda comparison, and that I wrote Nintendo wanting to make a Metroid game that will do for Metroid what Breath of the Wild did for Zelda. That would be great. Like, I feel like they're in a perfect spot right now I don't know where they'll be by the time the game comes out, which is unfortunate, but this year they would have been in just a perfect spot for, if the game was amazing, for it to like kind of, reset the franchise on fire for the first time kind of ever in some ways.
Right.
So I hope that'll still be the case when the time comes. But if it's like
Don't
super
worry, it'll be innovative. A Nintendo swap launch title. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be just like Breath of the Wild. We're going to get Metroid Prime 4 on Switch just to fulfill the obligation, because they said we're getting Metroid Prime on Switch, and then they'll also put it on Nintendo swap. Confirming it now, insider knowledge. I'm not allowed to say that and let you think
Nintendo
that it's true.
Stationary. It's stationary, but also you can write on it or with it. I don't know. But yeah, so I think that's it needs to do what Breath of the Wild did for, because if it's just another kind of niche thing and it comes out with kind of mediocre fanfare, then that's kind of, I don't know. it could stay on life support for a while at that point, still like put out more games. But for what it is, I think they're really trying to invest to make it be amazing, which is why it's great. The retro studios are back on it.
I feel like this is all or nothing for Metroid. Yep. Like, I feel like if this game doesn't do well, we're not going to get Metroid again for a very long time.
And I think we all know that, though, which is the good thing. Because I think when Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3 came out, at that point, there hadn't been like this huge, all these lulls in some ways to where it was like, oh, cool. Like, yeah, it was just taken for granted. So people didn't, feel like they had to go out and support this franchise.
But, like, when the original Metroid Prime came out, it was a very similar situation. Like, we haven't had a Metroid game in a long time. Like, the gap between Super Metroid and Metroid Prime is a sizable one. But in the sense that, like, once we got Metroid Prime, and then it was like the it thing, and in comparison to everything else on GameCube, because as we all know, GameCube didn't set the world on fire.
Right.
Then they were, all right, yeah, people like Metroid again. Let's just give them Metroid Pinball,
Yeah. Yeah, so I think you're right. It's kind of all or nothing, and luckily they're going into it with that kind of mindset. And you mentioned too that you hope that Retro knows what makes the Metro Prime games great, and I would really hope so as well. And I suspect that they do. And again, I was saying too earlier with the Metro Prime trilogy, if they've been working on that, and you also mentioned they came to Nintendo with a demo specifically, so it's not like they just were like, hey, we hear you've been having some trouble, like, we'll take you back, we'll do it again. Right.
But
instead they actually came and showed them something.
In the fact that Metroid went to them,
right? Retro went to,
that Retro went to Nintendo and was like, hey, we have this thing, because it's like the going knowledge that was passed around is that Retro was like, nah, we don't want to do that anymore. We want to do new things.
Oh, interesting.
And this kind of goes against that.
Yeah.
We're like, nah, man. Bandai or whoever, because it never was actually confirmed. Whoever was working on this game, they're not cutting it. We're going to take it back. And even though a lot of people have left, like, there are people that were there since the days of Prime. I would say a lot of the more important people, like, they still have the same head of the company. So it's like, and like the same producer from EPD or whatever, which I think he works at EPD. I don't think he's technically a Retro Studio employee. I think he's an EPD.
Tanabe?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's EPD. So yeah, it's like, as long as those key people are there that made the biggest decisions, I think Metroid Prime 4 is going to be fine.
Yep, because they can still direct. We don't know technically, like, Sakurai has been on all the Smash games. We don't know if any of, who of the actual core team that was working on it is the same for any of those. Obviously, there's people that are the same across those, but it's possible.
For Ultimate, Sakurai, he gestured towards them being like mostly the same, because they were able to turn around a lot of the work that they already did for Smash 4 and parlay that into Ultimate. But
I think it just goes to show at least that, like, the vision was the same between all of those games, because mostly because of Sakurai and what he'd set up. So hopefully, the same would be true for Tanabe with Metroid Prime 4, is that he knows what the vision of Metroid Prime games would be.
Well, I don't even know because Tanabe wasn't the director. He's a producer.
Gotcha.
I think the director did leave. I'm pretty sure he left. I'm pretty sure he's at Microsoft now.
And he was he was Retro employee specifically. Gotcha.
Yeah. But interesting. Again, it was like Metroid Prime was like a situation of, like, it wasn't just Retro Studios that made this game. It was Retro Studios that, like, came with the vision of the whole thing, and Nintendo was like, hey, this works in this way, but let's change this. It was like an all hands on deck sort of thing. It was like this melding of minds of, we're Western and we're Japanese, and we're coming together and making a baby.
Yeah. Well, and apparently too, just as far as like bringing, I suspect that they're probably bringing more concepts over from what they'd already worked on than what they told us, because they, I mean, essentially told us that they were starting from scratch and not bringing anything over. But I'd be surprised if they didn't bring over at least, you know, core concepts, maybe some assets or some of that kind of stuff. I don't know. But they also apparently have been using the same engine for like since the original Metroid Prime games, and like Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, I heard also is running off of that same engine, but obviously looks nothing like it. So it's, you know, a very malleable engine or whatever.
Right.
But,
I mean, most engines are, where it's like, oh, the Call of Duty engine was the same thing that they use for Half-Life, where it's like,
right.
it is, but it's not, you know?
Right.
Like
Yeah, exactly.
They build off of it and stuff
so,
like
but that said, at least it means like if they're able to use that, which I would assume so too, if they had a demo they were able to use, that they're already, you know, they've got something that they're already working with, then that's great, because then they can just, you know, keep working from there. Because that was honestly a lot of what took Breath of the Wild so long, was developing that engine and stuff like that towards the beginning. And so if they can just get that part already knocked out, then this can be done sooner than 2054.
Oh yeah, for further clarification on what I said before about the director, yeah, he left. He's at Record. I mean, he's at Armature now.
Gotcha. Yep.
And the whole thing of like, oh yeah, like he's like the way that even people think about Sakurai, where it's like, oh, if there was no Sakurai, Smash Brothers wouldn't be Smash Brothers. I don't know if that's true. Just because like the next thing that this dude worked on of note was Record.
Yeah.
Right,
exactly.
And
I mean,
nobody is holding Record to high acclaim of any sort.
I mean,
before
it's
it came out, everybody
goes,
was like, "Oh my God, these are people that worked on Metroid. This is going to be great." And it was, it existed.
It's like the guy, I don't remember his name, but the Mega Man dude,
Inafune,
in any case, Inafune, how like, you know, everybody was super sad that he left, but then excited about, what was it, Mighty Gunvolt? No. Mighty Number 9?
Mighty Number 9, yeah.
Mighty Number 9, and then nobody ended up liking that, and then the next actual Mega Man game came out, and everybody was like, yeah, that's pretty good. So,
yeah, exactly.
You know, needless to say, it's not just one person. It's there's a lot more that goes into it than that. I mean, I guess it could be, you know.
Basically, the auteur, like, idea is damaging. It's not one person that makes a game. Like, it helps to have one person
unless
with
it's
a
Stardew
strong
Valley
vision. Yeah, unless you're Stardew Valley and you literally made the game by yourself. But it helps to have somebody that's kind of steering the ship, but the ship doesn't work because that person, they didn't build it, you know? Like, they just understand it enough to be like, all right, yeah, we need to go west here.
Yep. Yeah. So, I'm really excited about all that, and I'm also excited to read what you guys have to say about AJ's video. We're starting out with Grimhane, and here we go. This is going to be a long one. I'm ready for it. Grimhane says, I'm not really in a place where I care about Metroid. I mean, I hope it does well because I hope Nintendo does well for obvious reasons. If, when this launches, it looks like something I'll want to play, I'll get it, however. I never played other... I'll get it. However, I never played other Prime games, so my only Metroid experiences are from NES and SNES, experiences which are not likely to have any real impact on Metroid Prime 4, aside from, oh, okay, it's Samus, I know that character. All that said, I think that Nintendo, a company that has been around longer than anyone playing a game on the Switch likely has, probably knows when a game isn't going to live up to standards of fans. Sure, they mess up from time to time, but for the most part, it's issues that have not been... but for the most part, their issues have not been the quality of their games. Retro is another known factor. They just make good games very consistently, so putting a franchise in their hand is a pretty good move. Really, there's nothing that we know about that's actually tied to the development of this game that should make us think it won't be amazing. And before people start chiming in with the previous problematic Metroid games, I said tied to the development of this game. There's clapping emojis, so... I clapped. Those problematic games will inform the developers what didn't work. They are the blueprints that Retro is following for... They aren't. Look at that. Barker could make mistakes too, everybody. Just remember. They aren't the blueprint that Retro is following for Metroid Prime 4. Of course, it's possible everything goes wrong and we end up with a bad Metroid Prime 4 game. It's also possible Bob Wolf will make 2019 the year he focuses on the great RPG genre game in his gameplay streams. I'd wager we're more likely to see Bob play through Kingdom Hearts mainline games than we are to see a bad Metroid Prime 4 game. Nicely said.
Agreed. Agreed 100%. But yeah, it's just like, I don't know. Too many people think that they know more about, especially when it's like people that clearly don't know what they're talking about. Like I had this troll.
Man, I saw that comment and it was very so
clearly
funny.
A troll where he's like, basically he's like, and you know that somebody that starts out their comment with insults probably doesn't have that much of like a grasp on what they're trying to argue. So they try to flavor it up a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, you effing this and that, you know, like, you're stupid and blah, blah.
My favorite was I'm not trying to offend you, but you're being really, really stupid or whatever. I'm like, no, but that's kind of right there. I'm pretty sure right there, what you just did, that's probably trying to offend, right?
Yeah, I think he was. And all he really did was, like, make me zone out. I saw a few key points that he was like, oh, you're dumb because Bandai Namco Singapore is just a localization studio. I'm like, you think it takes a whole team to localize a whole studio to localize a game? You really think that?
He got you good, AJ. Nothing you can do now.
It just takes a staff of 135 people to localize one game.
You know, that's all.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, Grimhain, he said a lot of stuff. Honestly, Grimhain, like everything you said is pretty much right where I'm at. I've only played actually the NES Metroid game and haven't had the opportunity yet to play the SNES one. And I played a little bit so far, Prime 1, and I'm going to play the Prime Trilogy whenever that comes out. But besides that, like, it's one of those things where I don't know to be excited for it besides the fact that everybody else says it's great. And I like Metroidvanias that I've played otherwise, so I can assume. But yeah, I'm definitely, it's one of those that, like, I'll have to just, be excited about it because I know it's going to be good from other people, more so than me knowing that it's going to be right up my alley or anything.
I have an understanding of Metroid games that is like baseline of what understanding I have of most Nintendo games. So it's like my understanding of a Nintendo game ranges from I know everything, I played every single one of them, to like I played a few of these, I bopped around a little bit, and that's where I'm at with Metroid Prime, where it's like, or Metroid in general, where it's like I played a few hours of the original Metroid and I played some of Super Metroid and I played the Prime games here and there, but I never was like, I didn't commit the Metroid lore to memory, it's like that's a Chozo, and that one that's Kraid, it's like I know stuff like that here and there, but I'm not like, it's not Pokemon over here, you know what I mean?
I know exactly what
I can't make a 20-minute video every week about Metroid. It's just not gonna happen.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. I hope well, I don't know. I was going to say something, but I forgot.
Just not.
I hope it's something, honestly, like when the trilogy comes out, I hope it's something that I really enjoy. All that to say that, because it's, because I would really like to be able to just be excited about all the franchises, but that's just not always going to be the case. So we'll find out. I'm being patient.
Everybody, what's the one that you're not excited for? You're not excited for what? Animal Crossing?
Honestly, I've never played an Animal Crossing game.
How dare you? There you go. That's the one that butters our bread at this channel.
So I remember being in 7th grade and a friend of mine telling me that he spent all this time playing Animal Crossing. I legitimately didn't know what the game was because, again, this was at the time where I didn't have a GameCube just because my parents didn't want me to have one at the time.
Because my parents hated me.
Oh, my goodness. It was such a sad, sad time of my life. No, but so he kept telling me that he was playing Animal Crossing, and the picture in my mind was like Frogger meets Farmville for some reason, because I was picturing
Just
like a
the
whole
crossing
game
part. You heard crossing,
exactly,
you're like,
because of
clearly
crossing.
it's a Frogger.
So I thoroughly did not understand what that franchise was and thought it was really niche until fairly recently, like honestly until like the Switch times when I heard about it again for the first time that I was paying attention to.
Until I said that the last one sold like 13 million copies.
Yes, right, exactly. So yeah, so it's one of those things I just completely missed out on. And I mean, I really enjoyed Stardew Valley, and I know it's pretty different from that in some regards, but also has some similarities.
It is, but it's not.
Right.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
Stardew Valley is kind of like, it's more active in that it tells you to do things, but you don't really have to do any of it, which is weird because it's like a lot of people are like, I don't want that in Animal Crossing because Animal Crossing is supposed to be stress-free. So is Stardew Valley. It's just a lot of people get stressed out about it because there's so many things that you can do. So it's like, I need to do all of it.
Yeah, that's
But if you do
me.
nothing, you're not going to lose.
Nope,
you know?
You're just going to hang around and have a good old time.
Yeah, just like, just don't do anything. Just walk around and look at trees and you won't lose the game. Turns out.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's exactly the one that I don't know to be excited about Animal Crossing for personal reason, but based on everybody else's hype, I'll just get it and find out for myself whether or not it's something up my alley, which I assume that it probably will be. But yeah, something else up our alley up here is comments, and Retrofaction said some comments.
He has a comment, all right.
He sure does. We're about to find out what it is. The problem is that it might take 2 years to really see Metroid Prime 4. Ignoring quality, ignoring the fact that
about 2 years, I think you're optimistic on that one.
Yeah.
But
well, I guess if he means actually see it like at all, that's realistic. But yeah, I do wonder if, you know, because normally they do the whole like don't show stuff until like at most like 9 months before. Yeah, so they try to keep it pretty short in that case. I wonder, because this is, you know, because of what this is, if they end up actually showing it to us with a larger time span than they normally would. But
or like if this turns into like Death Stranding, where it's like the teasing is part of the experience.
Right.
You're not going to see this game for 5 years in a tangible form. But we're going to show it to you a lot between now and then.
It's just Samus carrying around a baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting back into the comment here, ignoring quality, ignoring the fact that this is the fourth game in a heavy narrative game, ignoring that there was no Wii U Metroid game, waiting 3 to 4 years for the next Metroid is going to push Metroid into the same terrible release schedule that it has traditionally been. At this point, they might have to wait for the next generation of consoles before Metroid can jump in early onto a console release cycle. Metroid 1 and Prime 1 sold well because both games came early on their respective consoles and had 90% of a console life cycle to rack up sales. And for the reasons above that I ignored, Prime 4 was going to be niche even if it came out on time for 2019. Maybe launching it with the Switch Pro or the next console as the first Nintendo title on it would lead to the high sales Nintendo wants.
Yeah, no, I highly disagree with that. I disagree with the tail end of this comment, saying that like Metroid Prime was going to be a niche thing at the end, or when it was supposed to release. No, it was not. It 100% was not. Just looking at the fact that, like I said in the video, like the fact that it was the second most hyped announcement in the year, where they talked about games like God of War and all other crazy stuff. Like what? Like in no world would that be a niche thing.
I think some of it too is just like a question of, you know, crowded release schedules and all that, where at this point we've already had Zelda Breath of the Wild, we've already had Mario Odyssey, which are two huge tentpole games. So again, looking at it for 2019, if it would have come out in 2019, it's one of those people, like lots of people would be looking at it expecting that kind of a thing from Metroid Prime 4. Right. Even if they hadn't gotten into the series before, they're like, well, this is the next big thing like that. But there's not a Mario platformer and a Zelda that we know of, at least, that would have been coming around right around the same time of it. So
yeah, and even if there was, like, I think Pokemon and Smash Brothers selling as well as they did in the window that they did, as close to each other as they were, shows that really doesn't matter. You know, like, a lot of people like to think that, like, oh, these games are going to cannibalize each other, and it's not going to do as well as it would if you just released it in a vacuum. But then you have Nintendo being like, we're going to release Link Between Worlds and Pokemon on the same day. You know, like, that doesn't make sense to us, but hey, look at Pokemon, sold 14 million that year or whatever, and then Zelda was like, I don't know, probably in like the 3-4ish.
I do feel like that would, that matters. It would affect Metroid obviously more than it would those ones, just because those are just super proven blockbuster sellers, whereas Metroid is less so. But I think at the same time,
in the sense that Metroid is a lot more tailored to the people that have Switches now.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, the reason why Metroid was such this like niche thing on the Nintendo platform is because every game that is targeted at that user base is a niche thing on a Nintendo platform. But any other platform, it's the biggest thing on there. You know, like God of War wouldn't sell well on a Nintendo platform, or wouldn't have in the past.
Right, up until now.
Right, but now we have a lot of people that bought PlayStations and have Xboxes and PCs and all that stuff and play these games, and they're looking to play a game like that on their Switch. And
interestingly enough, I think so. We've got Animal Crossing, we've got a Yoshi game, and I mean a bunch of stuff, Luigi's Mansion, and all this stuff coming out, and Pokemon coming out this year. But there's still kind of the rhetoric being passed around that, like, okay, but when's the big game coming out for, you know, for this year? Which it's fine to think that, like, that's, you know, all right. It's just like, if none of those are the game that are getting you the most excited, then that's just not what's up your alley. But I think that does go to show that the people who own a Switch, the things that they're most excited about right now aren't the things that have been like casual blockbusters, or because those are obviously going to be huge sellers, like especially Animal Crossing and Pokemon. Like,
no matter what Prime does, it's not going to sell as much as Pokemon.
Right? No, absolutely. But so it's interesting that, like, the game that people are the kinds of games that people are, that current Switch owners are waiting for, are the kinds of games that are, you know, more hardcore or whatever. Because I think honestly, a lot of it too is like Nintendo fans that got more quote unquote like kiddie games or whatever, or just, you know, rated everyone type games when they were kids, have now just grown up and now want to play those games and also play something more, a little bit more mature, as far as kind of, you know, scenario and all that kind of stuff goes. So all that,
it was kind of like how I remember we talked about on the podcast before you were on it. Where
there was a time before I was on the podcast.
Yeah, I know.
You're just now telling me, AJ?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean for you to figure out this way. But when we were talking about Mario Party, it was like, it's a game that I want, but it's not a game that I would say I'm excited for.
Right.
Because it's just like a known quantity. It's like, okay, it exists. I'm going to get it. I'm going to play it. It's going to be a great time. But something like a Metroid is less of a known quantity. It's more of this like mysterious thing that's like, oh, I want to see it, and I want to see it get revealed and what it's going to turn out to be and how it's going to play. You know,
right?
So I think that in that way, like Pokemon, and I mean, I made a video along those lines when it was like the Bayonetta. I think Bayonetta is going to be a bigger deal for Switch than Pokemon is, and it's for that reason. It's like, what we know Pokemon. We've known Pokemon for literal decades, but we don't know what Bayonetta 3 will look like on the Switch.
Yeah, no, and I'm hoping that that's also going to be the case for Pokemon, as we've talked about a bunch of times.
Yeah,
but I would honestly love something in 2019 along those lines where it's like, where I just don't really know about it, and something a little bit more of a question mark, as but not to say that I'm at all disappointed with all the stuff that's already there. Like, it's going to be a packed gaming year no matter what.
It's definitely not disappointing. It's just not exciting.
Right. And so
like, it's exciting in the sense that it's like, oh, I want to play another one of these, but it's not exciting in the sense of like, oh man, a whole new world. It's Breath of the Wild all over again.
I think that's what it is. Like, when I'm looking forward to 2019, as of right now, I think I'm seeing a lot of games where like there'll be fun, happy times, like, I don't know, Yoshi or whatever. And it's going to be games that are fun and enjoyable, but maybe not that, as of yet, that'll like drag me into the world in the same way that, I mean, honestly, Breath of the Wild did. You know, like, where
it's going to be like 2018 in a lot of ways, where it's like they had blockbuster games. Again, as we just went over, it's like one of their best-selling years, period, for any platform, you know? But it just wasn't a lot of those like, oh man, I didn't know this game existed. I didn't know we were going to do one of these.
But then again, I mean, it's only February, and like we had Octopath Traveler come out last year, and that was like that for me. And then I'm sure there's going to be more games that we'll find out about throughout the year, and
that will be like that. Nintendo said is going to surprise us fans.
It's going to surprise everybody. Yep. Hubbalub wubbalub dub bub, something like that. I pronounced your name wrong, but it sounded like I just had a stroke. But that's a YouTube person.
Maybe he did first. You never know.
He just typed a stroke. Very eloquently at that too. Comment from Hubblebub Lumbubwub. Love it. Perfect. Is the best news the series has ever gotten was when they announced and released games at a fast pace. What people ignore is that Retro Studios could have worked on something else which could have been equally good. A new dev team failing is not good news, especially since we were told they were doing well. Interesting. So Hubble, such and such, is not thrilled with the news, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think this was a strange takeaway, because nowhere in the video did I say, I'm excited that they did bad, you know? Right. And we don't know that they did bad. And that's why, like, I think I touched on that last episode of this podcast, where it's like, we don't know why they canceled it. We don't, like, it's not necessarily because the game was a garbage fire or whatever. It could have just been the game that was not the game that people want, you know? Like, in the same way, Federation Force, I wouldn't call it a bad game, but it's not the game that people want.
Yep. And it's not gonna, I mean, if they're looking for a Breath of the Wild, that's a high standard. Like, or a Mario Odyssey or something along those lines. Like, that's something that they're, you know, that's going to be hard to do in any case. So even if, again, if it's a great game, or if it's a good game, like, that still doesn't necessarily meet that specific standard that they're looking for. So it's not necessarily good news that it was canceled. It's good news that Nintendo cares this much about this specific franchise.
It's the fact that it's good news that they cared enough to cancel it and not leave it canceled.
Right.
You know? Because Metroid is definitely in that threshold where it's like, this game doesn't matter that much. We can cancel it and cut our losses and call it a day. But instead of that, they decided to invest even more time and money into this franchise that, as far as we know, is not likely to make it back just on its own merits. You know, like, it's not a Breath of the Wild in the sense that they're like, this is one of our biggest franchises. It's not like Pokemon or nothing like that, but it's one of our most important franchises as a company. So it makes sense for them to put that much time and energy into the game, because it's their prestige piece. That says to me that them doing this with Metroid says to me that they want to make Metroid another prestige piece, and that's a big deal.
I feel like something with Metroid and all this stuff too, something that it reminded me of was, I forgot to read it when we were in the news segment, but one of the Q&A type things was, I think it was Miyamoto that said it, but somebody tweeted out, was like live tweeting some of the things that were happening during the Q&A. And one of the quotes was, we have a lot, something to the effect of, we have a lot of ideas, and it's important that contents are unique to Nintendo, or it's important contents are unique to Nintendo. Okay.
Right.
And we are not denying approval for internal development ideas, was the quote. And so I think something about that and all this conversation too kind of puts a picture in my head. I don't know if you ever worked fast food, but I worked at Burger King for like 2.5 years in college, and that was a grand old time.
Sounds like it.
When, I don't know, when the drive-thru is like not super busy, you're just kind of, you know, making sandwiches and sending them out the drive-thru and doing that. But then as soon as it gets really packed and it's like all these people want food from this place, then everything goes really fast, and like you're working really hard to, like, you know, get everybody organized and put everything together to try to meet deadlines essentially of burgers.
So you're telling me that fast food's not like SpongeBob and they don't have a vault full of burgers?
Well, let me tell you this. SpongeBob is a cartoon agent.
What?
A whole cartoon, yeah. But it's real. Cartoons are real.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it's something about this season, I feel like, with Nintendo, even if it doesn't feel like it just yet, I feel like on the back end, that's kind of what it's like. maybe for them is that, especially regarding that quote, if that's true, is that like if teams have ideas and are like ready to start on it, then this is the time where they'll just like green light a bunch of stuff and be like, all right, cool, yep, we'll do it, let's put it out. And they're actually like getting a lot of stuff done. And they also had like the end of the Wii U life cycle to start working on some of this and get ahead of the game a little bit.
Yeah, they're like, fine, Shannon, we'll let you make a freaking F-Zero game. Stop asking us, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. A teaser for if nothing crazy happens next week too. I do want to start out with a segment that'll just have us talking about like potential rebirths of franchises, but we'll get to that when we get to that, if that ends up happening. But moving along now, Squantle says it sets an important, which Squantle just reminds me every time of Rick and Morty Squanch. That's all. Moving along.
I thought you were going to say Squirtle, but all right.
Also Squirtle, kind of a mix of Squanch and maybe that's what it is. Maybe
it's just
Rick and Morty and Pokemon.
Squirtle. It's what would happen if Rick was like, "Hey, we need Pokemon in our world."
Yep.
Which I mean, it kind of did. There's a Pokemon Rick and Morty game, Pocket Mortys or something.
Yep.
Tangent.
There you go. It sets an important standard, in my opinion. Their honesty was admirable, as they could have just as easily made the change without announcement, which could confuse fans. The quality of the end product aside, I'm happy Nintendo informed us and warned us Metroid fans because it shows they truly care about the game and the people who are anticipating it. They approach the update in an apologetic way, which shows they know the impact a delay can have on people. Also, great video as always, AJ. I think he made a mistake on that last part, but yeah, no, I totally. That was my takeaway from it, was all those same things as well. That it's just their honesty was super important and really showed that they cared. And also, I mean, it was a great business tactic as well, like whether on purpose or not.
It kept the hype train going. Like, oh yeah, this game exists.
Yep.
And it's still coming.
And it also, like, somebody was theorizing that like, oh, well, Metroid Prime Trilogy couldn't have been, or it must not be real, because if it was, then they would have thrown it in as, you know, like given this apology and said, but we have Metroid Prime Trilogy. But on the flip side, they did this, everybody was fine with it, and they didn't announce Metroid Prime Trilogy. So now it gets to make them look like a good guy for apologizing, and then also a good guy for releasing Metroid Prime Trilogy, instead of, like, I think doing a kind of like bait and switch of like, I'm so sorry I couldn't get you this thing today, but like, here's a thing in replacement, ends up looking kind of like weak and, I don't know, like uncaring, as opposed to what it actually was my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. And I think that the other thing about like this whole transparency, it's like Nintendo and every other dev does this all the time. We just don't hear about it. Yeah,
right, exactly.
Like, that's what game development is. It's a lot of beta testing, literally, and saying, nah, this sucks.
Yeah.
Let's start this part over. You know, let's do this again. But this time, they just spent a longer time trying to figure it out and get it right. And for a lot of teams, it sounds like it was right for them. But because it's a sum of its parts situation, if part of it is bad, then all of it is bad.
Yeah, honestly.
So
I will always be curious about what the game was like. But nevertheless, Gilberto Calderia. Hey, finally got notified. I've lost some videos. Frowny face. Well, good video. I'm not a Metroid expert. I've played a little of some old ones, and I really want to get to play more of the series. Come on, Nintendo, where's the Metroid Prime Trilogy? Just release it already and make me go bankrupt already. Toads.
First part of that comment, it seems like YouTube doesn't want to recommend my videos right now. I don't understand.
That's frustrating.
But I don't know. I'll figure it out.
Yep. Do you think
we'll get to that in the Q&A? We'll get to it.
Cool. Dope. Sounds good. All right. Q&A time. Look at that. Here we are. Now it's time. Lizdrin2 asks, I know, quote unquote, no comment has been the answer so far, but when you said new videos every Tuesday in your last video, it kind of stung. The exclusion of and Thursday was noticeable. I get maybe Logan isn't coming back, but can you at least tell us he's okay? Question mark.
Well, first of all, Logan's okay. He's fine. Nothing's wrong with him physically. But that is like why I think a lot of like algorithmically our videos aren't doing as well, because the YouTube algorithm loves consistency. It loves when you're like, okay, you upload on this day at this time and it gets this many views from these people. And then when it sees that your uploads aren't reacting in the same way, in any kind of way, it impacts the rest of your channel in ways that I can't explain. And neither can they, and neither will they ever. As far as Logan goes, my understanding is that he says he wants to make videos, as he has always said, but his actions contradict that. Where it's like for the last couple weeks, and the reason why I've been saying no comment is because Logan gets upset when I talk about this stuff. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's unfair to you guys that you've come to expect a certain level of quality from us and quantity from us, and it just stops happening. There's no explanation as to why. So I'm going to explain it, you know what I mean? So, it's just a lot of like different levels of interest in this, you know, where it's like it has always been like my baby, essentially, you know, where it's like, I really care about this channel. I really care about the content that comes out of it. I feel like Logan cared a lot less. So when stuff's maybe not going his way in other parts of his life, or maybe just in this part of his life, maybe his video's not doing as well. And he's like, this isn't worth doing anymore. And he just stops doing it. And for me, I feel like that's not acceptable. It's not acceptable to be like, oh, I'm not okay with this right now, so I'm just going to stop doing it until I feel like doing it again. That's not how this works. And it's not how it should work. So I am willing to see what he wants to do next, in terms of like he's talking about he's working on some video, or he wants to work on some video. But in my head, there needs to be some type of movement in the positive direction. It can't just be like, okay, here's my video again, I'm back. Who knows if this is ever going to happen again? It needs to be some type of like real commitment that like this isn't going to happen anymore. There's no more like sudden disappearances for no reason at all. Like what happened with his uncle, like that was understandable. And the fact that he gave me advance notice to be like, hey, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make videos, blah blah, then I was able to prepare and say, okay, I'm going to upload on this, I'm going to upload 2 times a week, I'm going to do it. But now it's like it's just in a weirder position with streaming and like all this other stuff, like, and the fact that like I don't know when they're going to announce news, and like we're in a weirder situation than we were when I was making the 2 video thing. So, and I might very well still do that if I get a concrete like, yeah, no, I'm not coming back. But until then, I don't know. I don't want to like cut him like, I don't want to do what he's doing to me, you know? Where I just abruptly like delete all the branding of Logan from the channel and like change all that stuff, and like, you know, I don't want to do that. So we'll figure it out when we get a concrete answer from him that's not like talking in riddles. Yep.
Well, I hope that at some point this podcast can be all 3 of us, but if it's not, that's okay too.
I mean, we'll again, that was another part of it. I feel like that was like an early sign of that. And like we've said from the beginning, like the intention wasn't to replace Logan, but I mean, that just what happened, because it gave him, at first, it seemed like something, and he was like, oh, like, I'm not happy about that. I don't want to be replaced, blah, blah. Like you guys heard about when somebody asked a question of somebody hosting when Logan's not able to be there, and he kind of got offended by that. But then as soon as that happened, he just kind of let it go, you know, where it's like, okay, well, I don't need to be there, even though it was never a thing of like being replaced. So I don't know. Yep. I can't speak for him, but I can just tell you my understanding of it from the inside, looking inside deeper.
Yep. I mean, I guess it'll get played by ear a little bit too, so we'll be curious to hear about updates and all that stuff. But yeah, right. Interesting. Well, we'll move on to more Nintendo related, I guess, Q&A. Petard 35 asks, if you were to choose 3 Pokemon for a new Pokemon trainer in Smash Bros. Ultimate, which 3 would you pick?
As far as existing Pokemon,
I think so. Yeah.
I think it would be cool if they did like Gen 4. Gen 4 would be cool. Just because like if they're going to do a Gen 4 remake, it's a good tie-in. And then just change up like which Pokemon is what stage.
Yep.
So like rather than doing Piplup, Torterra. No, I don't think Torterra is. What's the Grottle or something like that? I think his name is Grottle is the second of all.
I never pick grass type, so I don't know as well.
Turtwig is hideous. But anyway, and then do Infernape. Instead of doing that, I think they should maybe do like Empoleon and Turtwig and Monferno. That's
exactly the setup I would think too, because we've got Squirtle as a light water, Greninja as a light to mid water, and then now we'd have Empoleon, who would be, I guess, mid to heavy water.
Yeah.
And then switch up the other 2 as well. Yeah.
Right. That'd be cool.
That would be cool. If I were to pick, because I'm going to impose myself on here, it would be really fun, honestly, to have a Team Rocket trainer and have... I mean,
Arbok and Weezing.
Yeah, pretty much. Like it would be a much sillier. Like it would be kind of a Piranha Plant. Oh, we never talked about Piranha Plant, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's true. Piranha Plant exists.
Yeah. Quick hot take on Piranha Plant. What you got?
I thought you were going to give one, but he's fine. I thought you were going to say like, oh, he's OP or something like that.
Hot take on Piranha Plant. He's OP or something.
I feel like that's like the takeaway for like whenever they add a new character, it's like, oh, this character's OP. It's like, nah, he's not.
Because you just find a move where it's like, wow, you can kill someone with this move. But it's really like, okay, but yeah, there's also all these weaknesses about, like, I mean, Piranha Plant has a bunch of really powerful moves, but really his like the punishing state that or his the downsides of it are pretty apparent at the same time. So it's he feels well balanced as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, for sure. He's cool. My current plan is to get him into Elite Smash before Bob touches Elite Smash in any way.
How many do you have in Elite Smash right now?
That's what was decided. Is just that all the DLC characters, I need to have them in Elite Smash before Bob sees the glory that is Elite Smash.
That's awesome. But yeah, how many do you have in Elite Smash right now?
I keep going in and out with Pokemon Trainer. I need to like nail it down with Pokemon Trainer, but right now I just have Inkling. Because really those are the only 2 characters I use in online battles. I don't really play Quick Play that much, honestly. Most times when I'm playing Smash is with people that I know and arena
just starting
matches.
Arenas,
So I don't really have a whole lot of time to be like, oh, I'm going to get every single character in there like some people do, but it's like, nah. Once they get the online better and however they plan to do that, maybe that'll be the next thing I do is try to get everybody. But right now I'm just playing with characters I like. And that's just 2 right now.
Bagel Denizen asks,
Brooks, what up, Brooks?
What up, Brooks? How can Dr. Mario World improve on past versions and take advantage of the mobile landscape?
I don't know if it needs to improve. I think that the best thing that Dr. Mario World could do is just be Mario World, but on a touchscreen. I think that it's something that they could potentially introduce is online, because I don't think they've ever done that in a Mario.
Like competition type stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I would never touch it because I
guess that's on the NES version on Switch Online, right?
Well, maybe. Because I don't know. Oh, well, is there co-op?
Because there's online multiplayer. For certain games. I just don't know if that's one of them.
So I think all the games, because I've barely played Mario. Actually, I don't think I've ever played Dr. Mario. I don't know. Is there co-op in Dr. Mario, the NES version?
There's like competitive
local multiplayer
like puzzle game sort of situation. I don't know if it's in the first one though.
Gotcha.
I know like Dr. Luigi had it.
Gotcha. So yeah, I think if it has versus multiplayer, then it would have online versus, but otherwise the games that don't have multiplayer, like that don't actually have multiplayer in the games, then the Switch or the NES online stuff just does it like kind of where you take turns or that kind of thing. So yeah, So I wish I could answer your question a little bit better too on my side, but I mean, I think to some degree they could honestly, because it's a puzzle game, take cues from Candy Crush and a lot of those kinds of games where like those games, obviously you can easily sink a ton of money into them, but also you can easily go about it and just play the game as much as you want without ever putting any money into it. And so it's a good ratio, I feel like, of it doesn't feel scammy, but I don't know. I think the ratio is just fairly good. It's kind of in your face about the money every once in a while, but
yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that these games need to do on mobile is rather than improve on what they are, is improve on what mobile games are using what this property currently is.
Right.
So make mobile games less mobile gamey. Rather than making Dr. Mario, more of what Dr. Mario is, or better than it was.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I feel like they could easily, I guess, mess it up. I mean, I don't think they would mess it up, all things considered, but they could easily mess up the whole, making money off Dr. Mario World thing. But it would also be easiest for this one, more than almost any other game, to do it right. Which they can even take cues just from Fire Emblem Heroes, I feel like, and going into that. So, yeah, but I guess we'll find out in about...
because they don't have waifus in Dr. Mario.
It's just Peach.
Yeah, and she's awful.
Last question from Impu. How do you think Nintendo should approach their release schedule with the quote-unquote non-specified dates but TBA 2019 games optimally? Also, do you think that the Switch market is oversaturated with indie games despite the fact that the Switch works well with indie games? If so, is there a need for a visionary work, or is there a need for a visionary's work, original in quotation marks, to pull an even wider audience to the Switch? Let's maybe go one at a time.
Yeah. So the first question, as far as like releasing them optimally, I think that the Switch is just in a place where it doesn't really need it in that way, where it's still selling off of its evergreen titles. Yeah. It doesn't need to we need to release a game on this month, and if we don't, then our sales momentum's going to die. Right. It's just a matter of whenever the games are done and ready to go, that I think is the most important thing. I think that it would, for right now in the immediate future, it would be cool if we got a game this month, but I don't think that we're going to get anything super ambitious or whatever. I think that the game that they're banking on this month to sell for them is Yokai Watch. Right. And then next month would be Kirby, Epic Yarn or whatever, and Yoshi.
I suspect this month we'll probably have more situations probably whenever a direct happens, Final Fantasy 7 is probably going to be an out now situation, and
right, because they did release that trailer or whatever.
Yep, exactly. And then probably 9 will be one of those out really soon, but it's only digital or something. And so I wonder if this month is going to be more of just that kind of a thing, where it's there's some bigger digital only games that people will be excited about, but it's not anything actually coming to the console in a physical type way. And then the rest of the games, again, we've talked about how if Luigi's Mansion isn't in October, we're gonna riot.
We're all gonna take our Switches back.
Yep.
We're gonna trade them in for PlayStation Vitas and give that one another shot.
And then trade that in for a Virtual Boy. But besides that, I mean, Pokemon's gonna be when Pokemon typically is, November-ish. And then, I mean, there's a bunch of the other ones that they could so easily switch
Crossing
around.
Needs to be summer, that's a summer game. Sometimes they do holiday, but it's a summer game. Put it out in summer.
People did point out too, fairly astutely, that the Switch Mini stuff coming out in the same year as Pokemon and Animal Crossing makes a lot of sense. So if those kind of release, roughly around the same time as the Switch Mini, that's easy sales right there.
Yep, truth. That's a good point. I don't think we'll get Bayonetta this year. That's probably not going to happen. Just because like the phrasing for like what they said about their release schedule, and Bayonetta is in the same TBD area as Metroid. Right. So who knows where that's coming, you know what I mean?
I feel like it wouldn't even be necessarily a thing if Bayonetta couldn't be ready this year. Because, I mean, maybe it could, maybe it couldn't. But I just, for some reason, feel like they're just going to save it anyway. Just because there's so much stuff already released. And then we have rumors of a bunch of other stuff. So at this point, if everything is already coming out, and then also Metro Prime Trilogy and also Star Fox Grand Prix, if, you know, say both of those games come out, and some of the other ones too, then I just feel like Bayonetta wouldn't have a great spot to set up shop.
To
where they're like, we'll just wait
for a while.
Yeah.
As far as the second question with the indie game thing, I don't think there's too many indie games. I think indie games kind of exist on their own, where it's like, if you like that sort of thing, you're going to buy it. I think they do better when there is a lot of them and there's not a whole lot of anything else. But as far as like Switch is concerned, like the more games, the merrier. I think they definitely do want Switch to be Steam, and they've said as much. Right. They want all the games to come to Switch. It's not a thing of like, okay, we want to keep this like super controlled and like small with what games come out, and like, you know, have it like this lean proposition that's like every game's a hit and there's only 20 of them every year. You know, like they just want everything on there. And
honestly, for the compared to especially the Wii and that kind of thing, for all the games that are coming out, not as many of them are shovelware as you'd think. As you know, even within like indie games and that kind of stuff, I mean, I guess they are, as far as like they were technically shoveled onto the Switch in some ways, but just as far as like quality goes, I've been doing some research, just kind of looking into all the games coming out this past week and this next week and stuff, and just taking a look at all of those. A lot of them were on either PC and PlayStation 4, Vita, or even mobile games. But for the majority of them, they're ones that were rated decently well, and the ones that weren't seem really obvious that it's like, now that one's a bad game, just don't even buy that. But I think it is more of a problem for indie developers in and of themselves, unless, like, if you're not in an indie highlight or an indie's presentation, or, you know, are on one of the things highlighted in other, you know, news media of some sort. It's more of a problem, I guess, for you releasing your game than it is, you know, for Switch owners by any means. Yeah. No, for consumers, it's great.
There's no obligation to play everything.
Right.
It's like you play what interests you when it interests you. I mean, I guess for people like us, there's more of a reason to play games closer to when they release so we can talk about them.
Yep.
But outside of that, I mean, there's no real reason why a game needs to come out at a certain point or like around another game, because it's like people aren't going to want to play every single thing.
Yeah. And I mean, with indie games too, the great thing is that you can kind of play it and finish it within a short window of when you actually get it. And it's, you know, they're cheap, like we talked about before, you know, so you can easily just, honestly, you could easily get an indie game every 2 weeks, even as a fairly casual gamer, and complete all of them and keep moving right along, and everything will be fine. Like, if I could probably complete an indie game every 2 weeks, even though I, you know, have a full-time job and wife and other things going on. But yeah, so it's, I don't think it's a problem at all. I think what would be a problem is just if Switch owners stop buying first party or bigger release or third party games, or, you know, like more substantial games at all, or just stop buying games at all. Like, that was mostly the problem with the Wii, is by the time shovelware was happening towards the end of the console, like so many of the owners of the Wii were casual, like not even gamers, grandmas and stuff that aren't going to buy anything. So a lot of people are trying to port stuff.
Not even that far into the Wii. Most people that had Wii,
it was
their Wii Sports machine. Which, I mean, isn't completely true. The attach rate for the Wii was pretty high. It sold 100 million hardware units and 920 million software units. So that's like a 9 games to 1 Wii attach rate. It probably actually didn't break down to that. There's probably a few whales in that equation there. And I don't know how much of that software is like virtual console stuff.
Right,
But
that's a good question.
for the most part, if you think of somebody that had a Wii, they probably didn't have like Red Steel. You know, they most likely all had like probably Mario Galaxy, maybe Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword. That's less likely because they didn't sell that great. It sold all right for Zelda. And like Mario Galaxy or whatever. You know?
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, even nowadays, the just marketing and branding and placement in general makes it easier to know what games are going to be good. If I just own a Switch and don't really know anything, I can go to the top, to the eShop charts and see games on there and know what's good. And if I go to my Walmart, in the Wii days, everything's still, or the most everything was still physical, so shovelware would take up store shelf space, so then you would see a bunch of crap and then a number of good games, as opposed to now there's still some crap on the shelves for sure, but there's a lot less of it compared to actual good games because
the middle
they're just going to go digital.
The people that were like putting out the crappy stuff don't have enough money to put out hard copies for the most part.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's also YouTube channels that talk about stuff like this.
What?
We might have a show that we're talking about that. It's going to help you
where you can start paying
thing.
attention to the games that are coming out into the future.
Yeah. You'll be more informed,
Man.
I promise.
Good stuff. Yeah, that was the last question. If you got more questions like that, or like other questions that you have coming right out of your brain, out of your fingers, onto the little touch pads that you got called your phones, then you can ask them. We've got a Discord channel. You can ask on Twitter. You can tweet to AJ, or you can write it on this YouTube video right here on directly to you. Any of those things, ask them questions. We will answer them next week.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Thank you for joining us on this wonderful journey that we call Directly to You. We talked about some games.
We did.
We had some goofs and some gaffes.
Actually, I was serious the whole time. I never made a joke.
We had a Donald Duck comment about how he's always angry. Remember that?
I do remember that happened.
He's literally always screaming. Which is why I'm being calm right now, because I want you to have a sense of normalcy in your life. I know you're playing Kingdom Hearts and nothing else, so I want to help you out. I'm your internet uncle. Okay?
Wow, AJ,
I'm not the dad, because that's Bob.
AJ just cares so much. Wow, just for all that caring, you should go be a member.
Yeah, exactly. Give your uncle some money.
It's just good life advice, I guess. Whatever, no big deal. Just give your uncle some money.
Okay, goodbye. See you on episode number 49.
See you guys.